Chapter 5295. After the demonic enchantress finished her sentence, she was unable to look straight into Yi Qing Luo's eyes. She took a deep breath and looked away. She naturally heard the warning in Yi Qing Luo's words. She was indeed the new divine phoenix. She looked like she was recuperating in the demonic hall and loving the people of the Feng family. It was as if she had long forgotten about the previous battles. However, he didn't miss a single thing that he should know. She had underestimated Yi Qing Luo. Initially, he thought that he would be able to deceive everyone by being discreet. Only now did he know. Yi Qing Luo had no reaction, nor did she find trouble with her. It was just that everything was in the palm of his hand, so he didn't care much about it. The hands under the enchantress's long robe were tightly clenched. He was like a prisoner on death row waiting to be sentenced. The atmosphere instantly froze. The silence was depressing. When the demonic enchantress was almost out of breath, only then did the girl's clear laughter come from the other side. The young girl's crimson-red lips curled into an arc, looking pure and harmless. Her gorgeous face was covered in a slight smile that was like a blooming flower, and it was peerlessly beautiful. I naturally believe in Lord Devilhall's words. She took a step forward and smiled brightly. So, I hope that Lord Devillord will put in some effort to find Huang Wuyo's whereabouts. The demonic enchantress took a deep breath, her voice somewhat tense. This demonic enchantress will naturally speed up the search. Yes, the young girl nodded slowly. After the matter with Huang Wuyo is over, I will naturally lead the people of the God Realm to retreat from the Devil Domain. At that time, you will still be the high and mighty lord of the Devil Palace in the Devil Domain, and the God Realm will not step into the Devil Domain again. Yi Qing Luo smiled lightly. After that, he walked past the demonic enchantress and left the palace, heading toward Fengshi's palace. Until Yi Qing Luo left, the demon palaces were all stunned. By the time she regained her senses, she realized that the back of her clothes was already wet and stuck to her body. She had actually been intimidated by a young girl. The demonic enchantress took a few deep breaths, suppressing the fear in her heart. Everything she had done, Yi Qing Luo was actually very clear about it. He didn't point it out, but he was giving her a chance. As for her, how should he choose? This choice would affect her future. Yi Qing Luo had just walked out of the palace when she saw Yin, Xiao, Yi, and the others standing at the entrance. The Brothers of the World group had long heard about what happened in the Devil region, and those with sufficient strength all hurried over. Seeing Yi Qing Luo coming out, Yin Xiao, he was the first one who couldn't hold it in. Qing Luo, if you're disloyal once, you don't need to do it 100 times. He's already working with you, yet he still has other thoughts. This kind of person can't be trusted. They had just arrived at the entrance when they saw the Devil Hall. Yin Xiao, he had originally intended to charge forward directly, but she was stopped by Xiao Jin. The group of them had heard the conversation between Yi Qing Luo and the Devil Enchantress clearly. After seeing the world group, Yi Qing Luo's expression turned gentler as the smile on her lips became more sincere and tender. Even with her current identity, how could she intimidate others? Her brothers, her companions, still treated her with the same attitude. It wasn't any different from before. She pulled Yin Xiao Yi's hand as she patted it gently. She had never been loyal to me before, so it's not considered as betrayal. She had previously worked with the Gloomy Palace and later on turned her back to work with me. That means that this person, as long as the bargaining chip is given enough, she would be able to lean towards any side. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5296. The current Devil region isn't as peaceful as what we see on the surface. Once there's a change of master, I'm afraid there would be another huge wave. Our main motive for staying in the Devil region is to let Huang Wuyo rest in eternal sleep, to atone for what we had planned 10,000 years ago for Mother. Yi Qing Luo's long and narrow eyes lifted slightly as she shot towards the front without any focus. I don't want to add to the chaos and let you all fall into danger because of me. She sighed softly as she held Yin Xiao Yi's hand and increased her strength slightly. Yin Xiao Yi could clearly feel the heat on the young lady's palm. Their hands were intertwined, conveying a sense of solemnity and cherishing. The anger on Yin Xiao Yi's face towards the devil slowly dissipated as her brows started to soften. She held Yi Qing Luo's hand as she slowed down her tone and gave a light laugh. You, have always been very strong and had always been walking in front of us. We've been protected very, very well by you. Her tone was serious and dignified, so don't feel guilty or blame yourself. Everything that we've experienced is the motivation to push us to grow. If it wasn't for your protection, we wouldn't be able to be so unrestrained, using our own method to grow. And the reason why we're able to appear in the devil region, to be able to turn from the trash that everyone ridiculed, to become our current strong selves. All of this is all because of you. Yin Xiao Yi suddenly stretched out her hand as she circled the young lady's neck and hugged her tightly. Qing Luo, really? Thank you for appearing. Yi Qing Luo went into a slight daze as she listened to the gentle whisper by her ear. Her brows slowly turned gentle as her long and narrow eyes seemed to be dotted with dazzling stars. Her heart softened. The two of them headed towards Feng Shi's direction to take a look at Feng Shi's condition, and then went to check on Ling Long. Feng Shi's condition was still all right. Only Ling Long. Perhaps it was because of her father, who wasn't considered benevolent in her memory, but who was always obedient to her, suddenly turned so malevolent and even attempted to take her life. This had caused a huge trauma in the hearts of this little girl. Even when she woke up, Ling Long was still stuck in the shadow, unable to walk out. She could only use medication to calm her down and sleep again. Ghost Doctor and the rest had also rushed over along with the World Group brothers. After taking a look at Ling Long, the Ghost Doctor shook his head. A heart's ailment could only be treated with medicine from the heart. He was also powerless. Ling Long could not walk out her nightmare. I will never be able to calm down. In this regard, Yi Qing Luo thought of many ways. In the end, it was Bai Su who brought the pale Feng Shi to see Ling Long, and Ling Long's condition improved a little, but only a little. Yi Qing Luo walked out of Ling Long's room, and the few people beside her revealed a melancholic expression as they heaved a long sigh. I plan to bring Cici and Ling Long back to the divine realm first. Bai Su leaned against the door and said to Yi Qing Luo, but her eyes were fixed on the inside of the house. Feng Shi was sitting by Ling Long's bed, gently coaxing her to sleep. As for Ling Long, Bai Su was still a little unhappy. After all, Feng Shi had been injured because of Ling Long. That was why she had exposed the mark of the divine emperor's successor and attracted Huang Wuyo's attention. Yes, and, most importantly, Ling Long was Huang Wuyo's daughter. Although Yi Qing Luo was also Huang Wuyo's daughter. But after all, the environment they grew up in and the things they carried were different. But Feng Shi valued Ling Long. She valued him so much that in order to protect Ling Long, he exploded with an unbearable energy load. How could Bai Su bear to do that? And how could she bear to stop Feng Shi and Ling Long from interacting? Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 52-97. Therefore, Bai Su decided. Then he left the demonic domain with Ling Long. Yi Qing Luo had her own considerations on this point that Bai Su had raised. Ling Long's current situation. Staying in the demon domain was indeed more dangerous. This was especially true for Huang Wuyo, who was hiding somewhere. Now that he knew that Feng Shi was the next successor of the Divine Emperor, he would probably attack Feng Shi secretly. It would probably be safer to take Feng Shi away from the demon territory while Huang Wuyo was still severely injured. She pursed her lips. Do you have a place to go? Bai Su nodded. Since I can stay outside of the myriad world and not be restrained, I naturally have a place that belongs to me. Since I decided to take Cici away, I must have made full preparations. Yi Qing Luo remained silent for a moment before she opened her mouth to ask, then, what about my maternal grandfather and uncle? Bai Su frowned slightly. She was a little reluctant, but she still continued to say, I promised Cece that I wouldn't let him leave his grandfather, so I will keep my promise. In other words, old Master Feng and Feng Liqiang would also leave with them. Yiqing Luo agreed to Baisu's idea without hesitation. Now that old Master Feng and Feng Liqiang had left the demonic realm, she felt more at ease. He stayed in the infernal domain for a day. The more dangerous it was, the higher the danger. Yiqing Luo turned towards Yin Xiao, Yi, and the rest. You all. Before she could finish speaking, Yin Xiao, Yi seemed to already know what she wanted to say and took the initiative to interrupt her. We've worked so hard to grow, and it wasn't easy to catch up to your footsteps. Don't think of leaving us behind. The few people behind her gazed firmly at Yiqing Luo as they gave a heavy yin sound. They knew that Yiqing Luo was trying to persuade them to follow Baisu to leave the Devil region. However, if they were to leave the infernal domain because of danger, otherwise he wouldn't have to go through so much trouble to rush over to the demon domain. Looking at their resolute faces, with an expression of if you chase me away, we will die in front of you, Yiqing Luo couldn't help but laugh. Who said I want you to leave? I'm asking you to help cover their escape. Don't let anyone discover them, including that lord of the Devil Palace. Baisu left quietly. In the current situation of the demon domain, all the major forces were crowded together. With so many people missing, it did not attract too much attention. Whereas the demonic enchantress who had been beaten by Yiqing Luo quickly sent news over. She had already found out where Huang Wuyo was hiding. Devil Succubus told Yiqing Luo the address, and his vision fell onto the young lady's side. That godlike man suppressed the unwillingness in his heart as he spoke in a deep and cold voice. I hope you will remember what you promised this prince. To Immerse. If the demonic enchantress said that she didn't have any thoughts, then it was definitely impossible. After all, Immerse's status was high and mighty. The reason why she had agreed to the Palace of Darkness request to marry the Overlord, other than the deal with the Palace of Darkness, there was also the fact that Immerse was coveting her. But unexpectedly, the person she coveted was a fake, and a real Immerse. However, he was not even interested in looking at her. However, at this moment, no matter how much unwillingness and resentment he felt in his heart, the demonic enchantress did not reveal anything. Yiqing Luo's pink lips curled up slightly as she smiled sweetly, contrasting that bright and beautiful face, making it even more captivating. Her long and narrow eyes narrowed slightly, meeting with the demonic enchantress's gaze. The demonic enchantress felt that the secret in her heart seemed to have been seen through. This feeling was the same as the few times when she discussed the deal with Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo had seen through everything. Trash, seventh young mistress. Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash, seventh young mistress. Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5298. Yiqing Luo had this kind of magical power. It was as if everything was under her control. As expected, the next moment, a young lady's clear voice drifted into his ears. If Lord Demonic Lord knows his place, I naturally will not forget. She paused as her fair hand hooked on a man's arm. Pulling him, she walked past the demonic enchantress towards the outside of the hall. When they passed by the demonic enchantress, the young lady slightly suppressed her voice as she glanced sideways. Her pink lips curled slightly. Let me give Lord Demonic Lord a piece of advice. Don't have any thoughts that you shouldn't have. She seemed to be smiling, but that low charming voice, when it entered the demonic enchantress's ears, it made the demonic enchantress's hair stand on end. The young lady's words had a double meaning. It was a warning to the demonic enchantress to know its place and cooperate with her, and also a warning to the demonic enchantress. Don't have any thoughts towards your man. Leaving the palace, Immerse drew the little girl into his arms as he whispered softly, Is Lil Luo jealous? Yiqing Luo hooked the man's slender fingers as she circled it in her palm. Not jealous. After all, The man I chose is so outstanding, so it's normal for other women to covet you. She didn't mind other women liking Dmo Xian. She couldn't control a person's heart if they liked him. Furthermore, her man was indeed outstanding. But she raised her head slightly as she met the man's eyes, which were as deep as ink, projecting only her silhouette. Her pink lips curled slightly as she smiled. It because I like you, I taint you. I can't take it. That absolutely stunning face, the smile on the corners of her lips, slowly turned bright and flamboyant, like a coquettish mandala gradually blooming. That kind of intoxicating, captivating one's soul. After all, you belong to me. Her, Xian. Her own Xian. She could like him, but to cross the boundary, she couldn't. Dmo Xian's peerless face revealed an indulgent and tender smile. He nodded as his eyes were clear. Yes, I'm yours. Yiqing Luo prodded his face satisfactorily. Good boy. The two of them hadn't been like this for a long time, spending time alone. The two of them stuck together and talked for a while. Yiqing Luo then brought up the main topic. That's right. Xian, haven't you been trying to find out where Huang Wuyo is these few days? Is there any news? There's news, but Dmo Xian gazed at the young lady's face as he replied calmly. There was an accident. Do you want to know? Accident? Yiqing Luo raised her brows. You still have an accident? Could it be that he has already left the infernal domain? If Huang Wuyo really escaped from the demon domain, if Baisu left with the Feng family, Feng Shi, and Ling Long, it would be dangerous. Dmo Xian shook his head. I've sent people from the Imperial Palace to guard the various exits of the Devil's Domain and even set up an array. No matter how many ancient forbidden spells Huang Wuyo knows, trying to undo the array I've set up would definitely attract my attention. Huang Wuyo must still be in the demon domain. After listening to Dmo Xian's words, Yiqing Luo was relieved. Then what is the accident you mentioned? The accident is... Dmo Xian lowered his head slightly as he leaned close to her ear. Other than the Devil Extermination Mountain, the second largest extreme ground in the demon domain, Mount Wurun, is Huang Wuyo's second resting place. The people from the Imperial Palace have detected Huang Wuyo's presence in Mount Wurun. Other than that, there's also... Dmo Xian paused for a moment before spitting out a name, Zhu Wu Xen. Yiqing Luo was slightly stunned. Zhu Wu Xian? He's also in Mount Wurun? Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5299. Ever since they came out of the Divine Emperor's Seal, the people of the illusion race took Zhu Wuxin away. And at that time, apart from being drugged by her, Zhu Wuxin seemed to have suffered quite a serious injury. Why did he come to uninhabited mountain instead of recuperating? The young lady's expression fell into Dmo Xian's eyes. Dmo Xian's eyes narrowed as he pinched her nose, and his tones seemed to be displeased. Lil Luo seems to trust Zhu Wu Xen quite a lot. Huang Wuyo was hiding in the uninhabited mountain. Uninhabited mountain detected Zhu Wuxin's aura again. Logically speaking, any normal person would guess that Huang Wuyo and Zhu Wuxin were in cahoots. But Yiqing Luo totally didn't think in this direction. It was enough to show how much trust Yiqing Luo had towards Zhu Wu Xian. Yiqing Luo choked on her words. Her little hand grabbed Dmo Xian's hand and moved his hand away from her nose. You're spilling the vinegar jar again. Dmo Xian's face didn't reveal a single bit of embarrassment. Instead, he spoke in a righteous manner. Who doesn't know about Zhu Wu Xian's feelings towards you? Why can't I be jealous? Yiqing Luo burst out laughing with a puff. She pouted coquettishly as she stared at Dmo Xian and replied snappily. Huang Wuyo is the murderer who exterminated the Illusory clan. As the young lord of the Illusory clan, Zhu Wu Xian is the only hope of the Illusory clan. He must be crazy to acknowledge the enemy as his father and collaborate with Huang Wuyo again. Furthermore, Zhu Wuxin was too stubborn. His obsession with her, They would also not allow him and Huang Wuyo to work together again, because Huang Wuyo's motive was obvious. Huang Wuyo was determined to take Yiqing Luo's life and dig out her profound heart jade, using her fresh blood to irrigate himself. Therefore, this was the reason why Chu Wuxin appeared on the uninhabited mountain. Perhaps there was only one. Yiqing Luo's expression turned slightly grave as she spoke in a deep voice. Now, we have to rush over to Mount Wurun. Chu Wuxin was probably doing this for her and the illusion race. He would first head to the uninhabited mountain to look for the whereabouts of Huang Wuyo. The people of the demon realm were in a state of panic. All the major forces were wary of each other. However, they all had the same goal. That was Devil Domain's Devil Hall, Yiqing Luo's group's whereabouts. For the major forces, whether it was the tomb of the former divine emperor or the place where revered Carefree was sealed, that was related to Yiqing Luo. Moreover, Yiqing Luo was able to become the current divine phoenix. It was definitely not that easy to inherit the position of the divine phoenix. There must be some secret behind this. Even if they couldn't defeat Yiqing Luo, they couldn't defeat the Overlord. At the very least, finding out Yiqing Luo's secret would more or less be able to take advantage of her secretly. Especially now that Yiqing Luo and the others were still in the Devil region. This also meant that there were definitely other secrets hidden in the Infernal Domain. That was what many forces were thinking. Because of this, more and more people paid attention to the demonic hall. But this was because the demon hall was being watched by countless spies. Yiqing Luo's group still silently disappeared from the Devil Hall. At this moment, Yiqing Luo and the rest had already started on their journey towards the Mountain of No Man. The demonic palace was not far from the Desolate Mountain. Yiqing Luo led the group of brothers, along with the 5 ghosts and the rest, all the way forward. After walking for about a day, they had already reached the foot of the Mountain of No Man. Looking at the Mountain of No Man, it was a stretch of undulating mountain range. Withered yellow trees without any signs of life were scattered all over the place. Wisps of gloomy, cold air floated in the sky, bringing along a strong, malicious intent. This made this Mountain of No Man added a tinge of treachery. 7th Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. 7th Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5300. Yiqing Luo had just gotten close to it when she felt the icy cold viper like cold viper, causing her brows to crease tightly. The atmosphere here, it wasn't any lesser than Devil Destruction Mountains, Inchi, and it was able to cause discomfort to humans. It was indeed a place that Huang Wuyo would choose. The Inchi in this place was the best healing medicine for Huang Wuyo. The man by her side clasped their fingers together tightly. His gentle and concerned gaze fell on her. Yiqing Luo raised her head and met his gaze as she smiled and shook her head, indicating that she was fine. Following that, she looked at Yin Xiao, Yi, and the rest behind her as she instructed, "Everyone be careful. The yin qi here is very heavy and is harmful to the body. If you breathe it in for a long period of time, it will affect your bodies. If you're not feeling well, don't force yourself. Just stay here and be our support." Her words were heard. Yin Xiao, Yi, and the rest frowned as they were about to retort. Yiqing Luo interrupted their words. "You want to stay by my side because you want to help me to do something for me. But under these prerequisites, the most important thing is to protect yourselves. If you are at the foot of the mountain, you will feel a strong discomfort towards the yin qi here. Then if you enter the inner part of the mountain, I'm afraid you will feel even more uncomfortable." Huang Wuyo had always liked to make use of people's hearts, toying with them. Once something happens to you, he might possibly make use of you to clamp down on me and restrain me. By then, wouldn't it be even more troublesome? The young lady's question made everyone's expression congealed slightly. In the end, they left 5 of them at the foot of the mountain, ready to receive them any time. As for the remaining people who entered the mountain, Ghost Doctor gave each of them 2 medicinal pills. Although it wasn't able to defend against the strong yin qi, but would at least make everyone's body slightly more comfortable. The moment Yi Qing Luo stepped into the mountain, she sensed that something was amiss. Stepping into the mountain, everything in front of her eyes instantly changed from the barren mountain and withered trees to a densely packed forest. The most frightening thing about this densely packed area was that this huge forest was not an ordinary green color, but as though it was surrounded by a thick black fog. Black tree branches, black leaves. It exuded an eerie aura. The trees were baring their fangs and brandishing their sharp branches. The leaves were so sharp that they looked like sharp fangs. It was like a living creature. In the air, apart from the thick smell of decay and dampness, there was also a thick, nauseating smell of blood. When the wind blew, it became even denser, filling their nostrils. Yi Qing Luo's pupils contracted as her fingertips speedily opened up her glower flame fan, using a protective stance to protect the group of people behind her. Spatial enchantment. Where they were now, it could be said to be the uninhabited mountain, but it could also be said to be another space within the uninhabited mountain. And this was the space that the person who had set up the spatial enchantment wanted them to see. Other than Huang Wuyo, no one else could possess such a sinister secret technique. It seemed that she did not need to search for Huang Wuyo's whereabouts. He could be sure now. Huang Wuyo was in the uninhabited mountain. In a short span of 3 days, Huang Wuyo recovered rather quickly. Not only did he manage to occupy Empyrean Mountain, he even had the energy to set up such a complicated spatial formation around the enormous Empyrean Mountain, from a smell of blood in the air. In these 3 days, Huang Wuyo had absorbed quite a lot of resignation. Yo-ho, you're indeed that woman Feng Ji's daughter. You're still very vigilant. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 53:01. A sinister voice was heard faintly from the dense forest. That laughter was filled with a thick sense of sarcasm. This voice suddenly rang in the midst of the group of vigilant and solemn atmosphere. Instantly, it attracted everyone's attention as they all looked over in unison. In the dense black forest, a tall figure was faintly discernible as it approached from afar. Into everyone's eyes, Inchi lingered around. That man dressed in a black long robe seemed to be materialized from the black fog. When Yi Qing Luo saw that man's face clearly, her narrow eyes squinted slightly. Long Out Yin, what are you doing here? Why was he here? Seeing Long Out Yin, that murderous and bloody aura, under the sky full of Inchi, revealed a hint of bloodthirsty intent. Instantly, it made the world group's faces revealed vigilance as they speedily displayed a defensive stance, blocking in front of Yi Qing Luo. Whereas Ghost Doctor and the other 4 frowned slightly as their brows creased tightly as they stared at Long Out Yin, sizing him up. The expression on their faces was complicated and vigilant. This man's aura was strangely familiar. Seeing that Yi Qing Luo directly called out his name, they probably knew each other. Long Out Yin's sinister and bloodthirsty eyes sized up the world group's people with a smile, which didn't look like a smile. Seeing their vigilant looks as though they were facing a great enemy, his lips couldn't help but curled into a sneer of ridicule. Little thing, you just brought these few pieces of trash and stepped onto the desolate mountain. Are you thinking too highly of yourself? Or are you belittling that monster inside? Yi Qing Luo's expression instantly sunk. Long Out Yin, you can ridicule me however you want, but don't belittle my brother. Long Out Yin sneered as he opened up his arms and waved it lazily. All right, this seat won't say any more. Yi Qing Luo's brows creased even tighter. This Long Out Yin wasn't someone who was so easily obedient. To compromise so quickly wasn't like his style. Long Out Yin's cold gaze squinted at Yi Qing Luo's expression as he sneered. Little thing, don't use this kind of expression to look at this seat. This seat is here. It's merely because I'm bored. This seat has just awoken and there's no place for me to go, so I can only follow you. His tone was filled with helplessness. as though following Yiqing Luo was her greatest honor. Yiqing Luo's vision went past him and looked towards the direction where he had just walked out from. How did you know that I would come to Mount Wurun? That was the direction of the inner part of the mountain. In other words, Long Aoyan had entered the uninhabited mountain early in the morning. Long Ao Tian looked at Yiqing Luo as though he was looking at an idiot. You've been staying in the devil region. Isn't it because you haven't settled that monster inside? That monster is in the uninhabited mountain. How could you not come? Yiqing Luo. Fine. I know you're smart. I know you're amazing. What did he mean by that smug and boastful tone? Yiqing Luo looked at the world group beside her as she waved her hand. No matter, continue walking into the mountain. Although the world group had retracted their defensive stance, their gazes towards Long Aoyan were still filled with vigilance. After all, this person didn't look like a good person at all. Yiqing Luo left. Long Aoyan followed behind him, walking leisurely as if he was on an outing. They walked for about the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn. Yiqing Luo suddenly asked, "When did you come in?" "Earlier than you. By a few hours." Long Aoyan replied. Yiqing Luo replied, "When you entered Mount Wurun, was there already a spatial enchantment set up?" Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 53:02. Long Aoyan curled his lips into a sinister smile. What's in it for me to tell you? Yiqing Luo was expressionless. Say it if you like. After saying that, she turned her head and didn't look at him anymore. Yiqing Luo ignored him. Long Aoyan felt even worse. Hey. Long Ao Tian hastened his footsteps as he walked side by side with Yiqing Luo. No matter what, this seat is the famous Lord Demon Dragon from 10,000 years ago. What's wrong with giving some benefits to ask this seat some questions? Was that too much to ask? If it was 10,000 years ago, just being able to speak to him was already a blessing accumulated in one's previous life. Yiqing Luo didn't even give him a look. Long Aoyan couldn't hold it in anymore. Fine, I'll tell you. When I arrived, the immortal mountain had already been covered by that monster's energy. I think that monster had already guessed that you would come here. He paused, and his tone suddenly became gloating. That monster knows that you're coming, but it has no intention of escaping. It's ready to invite you into its trap, and you just happen to deliver yourself to me. An evil smile flashed across Long Aoyan's bloodthirsty and cold eyes. You guys have to be careful. His drawn-out tone added some haze to the strange atmosphere. This made the world group's hearts sink even further. Yin Xiao pursed her lips and glared at Long Aoyan. She wanted to scold him. Since he had chosen to follow their team, they didn't expect him to help, but he shouldn't make sarcastic remarks from the side either. However, Xiao Jin pressed down on her arm and shook his head gently at her. That person is not simple. Xiao Jin lowered his voice. A person from 10,000 years ago. I'm afraid he's someone who can be mentioned in the same breath as the previous Emperor of Gods, Huang Wuyo. If Long Aoyan were to be angered at this moment, on the contrary, it would only cause more trouble. There's a very strange aura on him, said the blue-clothed youth who was being supported by Tong Ziqing at the back of the crowd in a low voice. Under the contrast of the dense yin qi, Long Yunzhan's cold face appeared somewhat pale. That pair of azure-blue eyes was faintly suffused with a somewhat complicated flowing light. The man called Long Aoyan. There was a smell of kindred to him. However, there was something different. It made him feel like he wanted to take the initiative to get close to her, but at the same time, he was a little afraid. This was the first time Long Yunzhan had such a feeling. Perhaps their voices had caught Long Aoyan's attention. Or perhaps it was the look in his eyes that made Long Aoyan notice it. Long Aoyan's eyes, which seemed to have been washed by ice and were filled with bloodlust, suddenly met Long Aoyan's gaze. Long Yunzhan instantly felt a chill rise from the bottom of his feet to his brain. His face suddenly turned pale. His body trembled slightly as he was not used to it. What's wrong? Tong Ziqing's eyes were filled with concern. Are you feeling unwell after the yin qi entered your body? Long Yunzhan shook his head, and when he looked at Long Out Yin again, that person had already moved his gaze away. However, the pressure on his body did not dissipate because of this. Lord Demon Dragon. The girl's clear voice sounded a bit displeased as she warned, if you don't know your place, then don't follow me. That Lord Demon Dragon, these 4 words, was obviously filled with ridicule. Long Out Yin retracted his aura as he shrugged his shoulders. This isn't seeing a little companion. This seat is too tall. Happy your head. Yiqing Luo glanced at him coldly. Don't have any ideas on my people. I don't have the time to guard against Huang Wuyo and at the same time guard against you. 7th young miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. 7th young miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 53:03. Long Out Yin's sinister eyes revealed a sinister smile that didn't seem like a smile. Even if he was smiling, it also made one feel horrified. Little thing, I am here specially to help you. Yiqing Luo sneered. Why should I believe you? Towards Long Out Yin, she could only confirm that this person had no ill intentions. But it was not to the extent of trusting him. After all, this person was hard to control and couldn't be understood. Long Out Yin clicked his tongue. You're making me sad by saying that. Immediately after, he changed the topic. I didn't expect. You actually have such a little fellow by your side. I have underestimated you. Yiqing Luo's eyes turned cold as she warned in a low voice. You are bored and want to mess around. You can mess around with Huang Wuyo, but don't touch my people. Long Out Yin snorted lightly as the sinister smile on his lips deepened. He is not your little lover. Why are you so nervous? Yiqing Luo and the rest walked for a long time. Other than the strange plants that filled the sky, there were no other living creatures. And after walking for a long time, they didn't seem to have reached the end. It was as if they were going around in circles. But Yiqing Luo specially left a mark as a sign. But it didn't return to the place where she left the mark. That meant it wasn't like ghosts hitting a wall. The black plants that filled the sky were like ferocious beasts. Visually, it gave one a feeling that there was no difference. No matter how they walked, it was like walking back and forth on the same spot. And the further they went, the thicker the yin qi in the air, as if it was going to penetrate their skin and pour into their bodies. If this went on, they still hadn't seen Huang Wuyo. This group of people were probably going to be eroded by the yin qi in the mountains. Huang Wuyo's body couldn't possibly recover in such a short period of time. Otherwise, he would have gone down the mountain to stir up trouble. He spent so much effort to set up this spatial enchantment. Other than blocking her from finding him and delaying time, there must be other reasons. Just as Yiqing Luo was deep in thought, suddenly there was a rustling sound in the dense fog lingering in the lush forest. A black shadow could be seen faintly. Everyone instantly focused as they looked ahead vigilantly. After several breaths of silence, the sha-sha-sha sound continued, but it did not approach. That voice, is it luring us over? Yin Shaoyi frowned slightly as she asked Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo nodded. This means that Huang Wuyo can no longer hold himself back. Huang Wuyo's psychological warfare was pretty good. First, he used the dense yin qi to create an oppressive pressure on them. The terrifying black plants baring their fangs and brandishing their claws increased the pressure in their hearts. Then it was aimless. It seemed like he was going around in circles, but it wasn't. At this moment, if there was any movement, those who had already been suppressed by the environment and were on the verge of erupting would definitely rush in the direction of the commotion to investigate. Danger lurked in every corner of this place. If he acted rashly, he would definitely fall into the trap. Yiqing Luo looked around. Senior's 5 ghosts. I'll have to trouble you to help me take care of my group of brothers. Xian and I will go over to take a look. Everyone wanted to stop him, but when they saw the man standing beside Yiqing Luo, they didn't open their mouths. If the Overlord was around, he would definitely protect Yiqing Luo well. They couldn't possibly be so passive, waiting for Huang Wuyo to take the initiative to attack. By then, it would only make them more passive. Trash 7th Young Mistress. Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th Young Mistress. Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 5304. Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian exchanged glances as they walked towards the direction of the sound. They had just taken a few steps. A black figure was even faster than them as he walked in front. Yiqing Luo's footsteps halted as she looked at that tall back view, which cast an elongated shadow under the thick fog, giving off an indescribable charm. She frowned. Lord Demon Dragon, why are you following me? When she shouted out the words, Lord Demon Dragon, no matter how one heard it, it made one feel especially ridiculed. Long Outyin was no exception. He also frowned as his sinister eyes gazed at Yiqing Luo with a smile, which didn't look like a smile as he replied naturally. This seat is of course following you, to see if there's anything fun. Yiqing Luo. In this kind of vicious place where a single word of disagreement could trigger a world-class war, probably only Long Outyin would be so heartless to treat this place as a place to play. Yiqing Luo took a look at Long Outyin and looked at the group of brothers who were being protected by the 5 ghosts. After thinking for a moment, she decided to let Long Outyin follow her. At least this unstable factor was following her, and there was still Dmo Xian who could control him. If she left Long Outyin behind, who knew if Long Outyin would suddenly act up and take action against the group of brothers? Hence, Yiqing Luo didn't open her mouth to stop him. Yiqing Luo's little hand held onto Dmo Xian's arm as the both of them walked forward carefully, whereas Long Outyin swaggered, as though he was on a field trip as he strode forward without any worries. Yiqing Luo didn't stop him. With such a little white rat to scout the way ahead, she couldn't ask for more. As expected, the instant the 3 of them merged into the dense black forest, a black shadow flashed past, and the surrounding plants which were baring their fangs and brandishing their claws were swiftly charging towards them. Those sharp branches and thorny leaves were as though they had opened their bloody mouths in an attempt to swallow the 3 of them. Long Outyin, who was walking right in front, was directly swept into the sky, full of plants. Dmo Xian's reaction was swift. The instant Long Outyin fell into the trap, the purple cloud's sleeve suddenly waved. A majestic, profound ray blocked in front of him and Yiqing Luo. Bam! There was a violent explosion. The plant baring its fangs and brandishing its claws collided with the black light. Seeing that it was unable to devour the 2 of them, more and more plants appeared around them, rushing towards the 2 of them. Densely packed, it directly surrounded Dmo Xian and Yiqing Luo, separated by a profound barrier as they were wrapped together, even though she was protected in Dmo Xian's arms. Yiqing Luo could hear the horrifying plants around her and the sound of them twisting around her. Yiqing Luo could vaguely see that Long Ao Tian seemed to be sucked into the plant's huge mouth, and she could also see Long Ao Tian's struggling movements, which made those plants seem as though they were swallowing. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but have goosebumps. She rubbed her arms and said, "There really is something wrong with these plants." These plants all had mysterious yin-qi gathered on them. No matter how he looked at it, it didn't look like a proper plant. She did think of man-eating plants. Unexpectedly, these plants were really man-eating plants. Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes narrowed slightly, as her vision speedily surveyed the surroundings. There had to be a way to control or mutate plants. It can control so many plants. The source was definitely not small, but with her and Dmo Xian as the epicenter, the surroundings were already covered with layers and layers of thick black plants, which completely blocked Yiqing Luo's vision. Trash 7th Young Mistress. Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th Young Mistress. Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 53:05. Yiqing Luo could only use her perception to sense the surroundings to see if there was any strange source. After she sensed it, Yiqing Luo was a little surprised. She wondered how many cultivators' lives had Huang Wuyo sacrificed, and how much of their profound energy had he absorbed. Within 100 miles radius, as long as it was within her perception range, it was all covered by Huang Wuyo's profound yin qi. Wasn't he trying to break the God Emperor's seal and escape? According to her deduction, Huang Wuyo's current condition was absolutely not any better. Previously, Huang Wuyo wanted to use his full strength to break the seal, so he waited and waited. Her appearance had ruined Huang Wuyo's plans. This led to Huang Wuyo breaking the seal forcefully. The current Huang Wuyo had at least preserved 60% of his strength, which was already considered very good. Even if Huang Wuyo had used a forbidden technique to absorb other people's profound energy as nourishment, it was also impossible to create such a huge spatial enchantment, and to be able to control so many plants. Just as Yiqing Luo was pondering deeply, suddenly a weak energy, almost undetectable, jumped slightly under her perception. Yiqing Luo opened her eyes and looked straight in that direction, separated by a dense cluster of spiraling plants. Her vision seemed to have penetrated through the plants. Dmo Xian looked at her. Found something? Yiqing Luo nodded. Is there any way to push these strange plants away? Dmo Xian directly used his actions to answer. His sleeves, which looked like flowing purple clouds, fluttered slightly. A formless, profound wave suddenly shook the surroundings of the two of them. A majestic aura rippled in the air, causing people to feel horrified as it slowly spread out. The densely packed plants were instantly dispersed by the shockwave. Yiqing Luo confirmed the position, clenched the glower flame fan, and leaped up. At the same time, Qian spread its wings and soared into the sky, steadily catching Yiqing Luo. The raging flame was burning the sky, full of plants. Xian, go check on Long Out Yin. I'll observe the situation from afar. Yiqing Luo said to Dmo Xian. With Qian's fire could purify the world's evil. These plants, controlled by the mysterious yin qi, would be burned by the blazing flames. Yiqing Luo directly rushed towards the place where she had sensed the weak fluctuation earlier. She sat on the back of Qian, her long and narrow eyes narrowed vigilantly, looking at the situation in front of her from a distance. Under the burning of the flames, the plants turned into ashes bit by bit. It was then revealed under the lush plants, the lines that looked like blood veins intertwined on the ground in an intricate and complicated manner. The strands of blood were faintly discernible under the raging flames. As for the place where Yiqing Luo detected the fluctuation earlier, the veins of blood intertwined and formed a strange totem. There, 3 bloody bones were inserted horizontally. Above them, one could still see the blood that slowly slid to the ground and spread among the blood wisps. It looked extremely terrifying. It was that blood bone controlling these plants, or rather, the source of this spatial barrier. Yiqing Luo made Qian lower its altitude and slightly nearer. He could see it clearly. Among the blood veins on the ground, every place where the totem was drawn, there were these 3 blood bones. It could be seen that her guess was right. These blood bones should be the bones of those cultivators whose profound energy had been absorbed by Huang Wuyo. This Huang Wuyo was really vicious and merciless to the extreme, destroying the cultivator's profound energy and profound jade heart. Even the corpses were not spared. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 53:06. She knew the source of these strange plants and where they came from. It was much easier to resolve this array. Yiqing Luo's fingertips moved, and the glower flame fan swept up thousands of huge waves as it surged towards the blood bones on the ground. At the same time, She made the scarlet flame fan spit out raging flames towards the bloodbones. But things didn't proceed as Yi Qing Luo had expected. When the profound energy attacked, the blood traces on the bloodbones and the viscous liquid were like a huge open mouth, trying its best to absorb the surging profound energy. And when the raging flames got close to the bloodbones, numerous plants pounced on it, using the thick black smoke to form the plants, which looked like they were brandishing their claws and fangs to block the raging flames. This sky full of plants. No matter how the raging flames burned, there were plants that pounced forward to protect the bloodbones. Yi Qing Luo's expression changed slightly. These bloodbones, and this sky full of thick black plants. Could it be? Yi Qing Luo thought of a possibility as her expression changed drastically as she swiftly turned her head to look at DMO Xian. Xian, this is bad. Huang Wuyo intends to absorb both of our energy. This array, it was not a formation used to trap them at all, but an array that absorbed profound energy. These plants were the medium to absorb the profound energy. Just like when she was at the God Emperor's seal grounds, she saw those densely packed bloodlines. They were all using this medium to absorb a cultivator's energy. No wonder, previously when she was protected in DMO Xian's arms, she was still able to release her perception through the densely packed plants. Probably at that time, these plants were already absorbing DMO Xian's profound energy, which was condensed into a protective shield. Yi Qing Luo was just about to tell DMO Xian about this discovery. She heard DMO Xian's slightly anxious voice rang. Not good. Lil Luo Long Ao Yin is missing. This sentence completely interrupted the words that Yi Qing Luo was about to say. Her eyes narrowed and her heart skipped a beat. Long Ao Yin had disappeared, which meant that Long Ao Yin wasn't swallowed by those plants. A thought suddenly arose in Yi Qing Luo's mind. Her face turned green and white as she immediately surveyed the surroundings alertly, her fingertips gripping the glower flame fan tighter. But the next moment, her body suddenly tensed up, something cold pressed against her skin. Before he could react, her entire body was directly strangled by a strong force, directly falling from Qian's back, directly falling in the direction of a certain bloodbone. Yi Qing Luo had just moved. An intense pain came from his skin. It was as if something was slowly corroding. She lowered her eyes and looked at the black chain that had suddenly wrapped around her waist. It was as if there was a thick black mist surrounding it. Moreover, Yi Qing Luo also saw a familiar face on the iron chain fatty. The man, who was as cold as cast, curled his thin lips. Between his cold and sinister eyes, there was a hint of coldness. A dim light flickered in his eyes, as if it was covered with frost. Long Ao Yin. Yi Qing Luo spat out 3 words with a pause. That strong suction force caused her to be unable to utter a single word. Under the pull of the suction force and the iron chain around her waist, her entire body abruptly melted into the bloody bone. Vaguely, Yi Qing Luo seemed to see DMO Xian swiftly rushing over after splitting the sky full of plants. His hand held on to hers, but the next moment, she lost all her consciousness as she fell into darkness. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please collect it gently. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please collect it gently. Chapter 5307. Yi Qing Luo was awakened by the heat. The burning sensation on her skin, as if she was about to be devoured by the flames, caused her to open her eyes. What greeted her eyes was a huge patch of red. The flames were swaying, giving off coquettish sparks, like a moving fire snake, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. Ah Xian! Yi Qing Luo discovered that she was in the middle of a burning fire. What was going on? There was no sound from the surroundings. There was no response from DMO Xian. In the quiet space, other than the sound of the burning flames, there was only her heavy breathing. Yi Qing Luo wanted to move, thinking of a way to leave this fire. But the moment she moved, she heard the sound of iron chains rubbing against the ground. There was a force on her waist, imprisoning her in place. Yiqing Luo recalled that before she fell into darkness, she seemed to be bound by an iron chain. That iron chain, if she remembered correctly, it seemed to be the iron chain that bound Long Outyin when she first met him. It was Long Outyin. He schemed against her. Yiqing Luo's slender fingers clenched tightly. A trace of coldness flashed past her eyes. This was not the first time Long Outyin schemed against her. She actually thought that such an arrogant person like Long Outyin would not bother to play any tricks in the dark. She had always thought that. Long Outyin might have had a different opinion about Fenggu, her mother. So, they were not considered friends, but not enemies either. But Long Outyin schemed against her once again. What was he trying to do? And where was this place? Yiqing Luo endured the piercing pain from the blazing fire, and that uncomfortable feeling of even breathing was boiling hot as she tried her best to open her eyes, surveying the surroundings. It was best to determine where she was before making any plans. But as far as she could see, other than the burning flames, there was nothing else. Probably her body had gone through several rounds of transformation and consolidation. Or probably this kind of flame had other uses, although the heat was high. But it was not enough to directly burn her into ashes. But, according to the sky, full of flames and the discomfort from her body, she had to leave this place as soon as possible. Otherwise, she might really be burnt into ashes. For these flames, of course, he had to use a stronger fire to devour it. Yiqing Luo concentrated and wanted to summon Qi Yin out. However, when she concentrated her mental power into the pet space, there was only silence. It was completely empty. He couldn't feel anything. Her connection with the pet space had been cut off. Not only that, Yiqing Luo also discovered that the azure aqua set on her hands and neck, as well as the profound phoenix ring, had all been removed. Under the raging flames, there was only the dim and lusterless azure dew bracelet on her delicate, jade-like arm, appearing extremely lonely. When Yiqing Luo looked over carefully, she could faintly see, on the surface of the azure dew bracelet, there was a faintly discernible floating black Enshi. This was the mysterious Enshi. Someone had used profound En energy to seal her azure dew bracelet. Yiqing Luo probed her divine sense into the azure dew bracelet, and sure enough, it was blocked by something. In other words, she had nothing to rely on now. Stripping her of everything she relied on was to prevent her from escaping from this fiery land. What is Long Outyin trying to do? No, that's not right. It should be Long Outyin and Huang Wuyo. What are they trying to do? There was no azure dew bracelet, no azure dew artifact. Just relying on her alone. She wanted to break free from the iron chain on her waist and escape this fiery land. I'm afraid it will be a little difficult. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentle with your love. Everyone, please collect it. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentle with your love and hit me. Chapter 5308. Ding! Suddenly, the sound of metal clashing was heard. Yiqing Luo hadn't even had the time to identify where the sound came from. Following that, she heard a familiar, sinister, and treacherous voice, laughing sinisterly. Demon Dragon, you've done very well. That voice, wasn't it? Huang Wuyo's voice. Following that was Long Outyin's icy cold voice. This seat merely hates that woman's daughter. It has nothing to do with you. Don't flatter yourself. This seat is able to obtain this vessel. No matter what, it's all because of you. Huang Wuyo didn't mind Long Outyin's rudeness. When this seat fuses with that vessel, which can nurture the Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade, swallow the Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade, obtain the Divine Phoenix's inheritance, and unify the world. This seat will definitely let you become the Lord Demon Dragon, who is second only to one and above all others. Long Outyin snorted coldly. If the seat wants, I can totally override your head. Who do you think you are? He paused for a moment and continued to humiliate. Revered Wu Yu, if this seat wants to deal with you, based on your current state, can you stop this seat? Huang Wuyo didn't make a sound, but from the rhythm of his breathing, Yiqing Luo could roughly feel that Huang Wuyo was suppressing his own anger. After all, based on Huang Wuyo's temperament, he had always been arrogant and looked down on everyone. To be humiliated by Long Outyin in this way. If Huang Wuyo was at his peak, he would definitely tear Long Outyin apart with his bare hands. But Huang Wuyo endured it. He opened his mouth, and his voice was much colder. Then this seat has to thank Lord Demon Dragon for showing mercy. This sentence was said with extreme ridicule. Long Outyin seemed as though he couldn't hear the hidden anger in Huang Wuyo's words as he calmly accepted Huang Wuyo's gratitude. It's good that you know this seat doesn't want to be involved with you, so this seat shall leave first. Huang Wuyo opened his mouth again. Don't tell me Lord Demon Dragon doesn't want to see how that last Fengqing Luo is refined into this vessel. This seat knows that woman's daughter isn't living well. That's enough. After Long Outyin finished his words, there was no more sound from him. Outside, the sinister and cold profound Yin Shi was wreaking havoc. Huang Wuyo roared furiously, Long Outyin, how dare you be rude to this seat? Once I merge the divine phoenix profound heart jade with the vessel, I will kill you first. The commotion lasted for a long time. Yiqing Luo's brows creased tightly as she roughly understood that she might be in a container, being refined by the intense flame. Huang Wuyo was planning to, after refining her and the divine phoenix profound heart jade, he would use them directly? This is too sinister. Huang Wuyo had even specifically cut off her Azure Water Divine artifact and the mental magnetic field that connected it to the Azure Water Bracelet in the pet space. It seemed like they had made sufficient preparations. However, the conversation between Huang Wuyo and Long Outyin had transmitted a message. The current Huang Wuyo seemed to be in a very bad condition. Huang Wuyo endured Long Outyin's blunt insults. As for Long Outyin, his attitude was insolent, as though he could kill Huang Wuyo any time he wanted. In other words, as long as she could think of a way to leave this refined vessel, he could deal with Huang Wuyo directly. Of course, the prerequisite was she wouldn't be refined by Huang Wuyo directly. She had to think of a way. The current her was still able to withstand this kind of intense flame. But as time dragged on, no one knew what accidents would happen. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Lord Overlord, please be gentler and collect me. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Lord Overlord, please be gentler and hit me. Chapter 5309. Yiqing Luo tried to nudge her body. The iron chain around her waist had imprisoned her so that she couldn't move at all. She pursed her lips as her vision swept across the blazing flames, as though her fingers were surrounded by the flames. Under the illumination of the flames, her fingertips seemed to be crystal clear, like a beautiful jade in the midst of the flames. And on that beautiful jade fingertip, there was an exquisitely carved profound phoenix ring, which looked like a flying phoenix, but now it was empty. She rubbed it with her fingers. She wasn't used to it. Usually, whenever she thought of DMO Xian and saw the profound phoenix ring, it would feel like DMO Xian was by her side. But now, she habitually looked and touched it, but it was empty without the touch of the ring. Huang Wuyo obviously knew about the connection between this profound phoenix ring and DMO Xian. Yiqing Luo recalled that before she fell into darkness, she vaguely saw DMO Xian flying towards her. Most likely, DMO Xian might be nearby now. Thinking of DMO Xian, her long and narrow eyes glowed with a bright light. The blazing flames couldn't cover up the radiance in her eyes. She believed that her Xian would definitely find her. And before that, she had to protect herself and think of a way to leave this refining vessel. Yiqing Luo could roughly deduce from the heat of the refining vessel and the intensity of the flames. If this refining vessel wanted to refine her, it would need at least 5 days. She wasn't sure how long she had been unconscious. At this time, the discomfort she felt was only a prickling pain on her skin, and her breathing was a little hot. She should be able to hold on for another day or two. But after all, this was Huang Wuyo's refining vessel. It was easy to give birth to heresy. Moreover, everything she knew so far was just her guess. The most important thing now was to think of a way to break free from the iron chains. These iron chains seemed to have a close connection with Long Outyin. It seemed like it was the iron chains that sealed Long Outyin's body. Back then, her mother was able to seal Long Outyin with the iron chains. She would definitely be able to deal with this iron chain. Time passed by slowly. About 2 days' time, Yiqing Luo finally sensed a clue from the iron chain. She focused her mind and endured the discomfort of being burned by the raging fire. She released her spiritual perception ability and sensed the source of the power of the iron chain. After exhausting his profound energy and mental energy, he spent a tremendous amount of effort to finally cut the iron chains around his waist and forelimbs. Her body, without the support of strength, fell heavily on the fiery ground. The raging fire dragon instantly drowned her, although it was comfortable to be free from the chains. But right now, Yiqing Luo wasn't any better. She sat on the ground, her whole body drenched in sweat. Her nostrils were filled with thin, hot air. The scorching flames burned her skin red. Over the past 2 days, the temperature of the refining vessel had been increasing. When the burning flames brushed past her skin, the stinging sensation became more and more obvious and persistent. Her current body, no matter how many times it had been recast and strengthened, under the power of this flame, it was still unbearable, especially as the black smoke-like mysterious yin-chi in the refining vessel gradually thickened. Yiqing Luo could feel that the divine phoenix profound heart jade in her heart was faintly agitated. She wanted to suppress it, but even she herself couldn't control herself. Revered Wu Yu. Suddenly, a hurried voice was heard. That person was obviously in a hurry as he knocked heavily against the refining vessel. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please collect it gently. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please collect it gently. Chapter 53:10. A heavy collision sound was heard, causing the entire container to let out a buzzing sound. Yiqing Luo frowned slightly. Just a touch, and she actually felt her entire body trembling slightly. That person's strength was so huge, not allowing Yiqing Luo to think further. That person's words diverted Yiqing Luo's attention. Revered Wu Yu, it's bad. The cultivators from Earth Realm, Heaven Realm, and God Realm have all attacked the Devil region. Even that demonic succubus woman had betrayed us at the last minute and told the World Mercenary Group where our army was hiding. Right now, all of our hidden armies have been completely destroyed. Just as that person's words landed, a heavy, heart-wrenching cough was heard. Huang Wuyo's voice was so sinister that it seemed to be covered in frost. What did you say? That person seemed to be frightened, and after some time, he trembled as he repeated what he said. Following that, he hurriedly said, Revered Wu Yu, not only that, the World Mercenary Group and Foam Family have joined hands and led the other 3 realms cultivators to surround Mount Godless. Heh, he. Huang Wuyo laughed lowly, and that laughter was so sinister that it made one's hair stand. As he laughed, he suddenly smashed something. You're indeed the brothers that my daughter brought up. Each and every one of you are so affectionate and loyal. I'll grant them their wish. Revered Wu Yu, what do you want to do? That person suddenly screamed in terror, and in the end, there was only a miserable cry and no other sound. Huang Wuyo slowly stood up as his body swayed, and his footsteps were heavy. Yiqing Luo could hear the footsteps getting closer. Following that, there was another slight tremor. Above her head, Huang Wuyo's sinister voice floated over. Those brothers of yours are indeed affectionate and loyal. If this seat refines you into this seat's body in front of them, do you think They can't wait to cut this seat into 1,000 pieces, or because you have become a part of this seat's body, they can't do anything to this seat. His laughter was sinister and a little crazy. He laughed for a long time. Probably because no one could give him a response, he carelessly knocked on the container again. Maybe you've already been refined into a container. Then I'll devour you in front of them. Yiqing Luo knitted her brows tightly. Just now, the conversation between that man and Huang Wuyo had shocked her. Had everyone in the three realms banded together to surround the fiend domain and deal with Huang Wuyo? Also, what was Huang Wuyo's hidden army? There was not a hint of panic in Huang Wuyo's tone. It was as if the so-called joint attack of the three realms was expected. As for him, victory was within his grasp. What's more, she was using her to provoke her companions. Yiqing Luo's heart was faintly uneasy. Did Huang Wuyo have a trick up his sleeve? Or was it because after refining her, he would be able to obtain 100% of his strength? Was that why he was fearless? No, she could not let her brothers fight alone. She had to find a way to leave this refining vessel. Yiqing Luo's eyes lit up with sparks of fire. Under the sky, full of raging flames, it wasn't suppressed by the light. Just at this moment, Yiqing Luo's peripheral vision suddenly swept across something. By the time she fixed her eyes on it, there was only an endless raging fire. As though everything was just her misconception. Yiqing Luo was certain. Earlier at that moment, she had vaguely seen a flash of purple light in that direction. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 53:11. Purple light? In this raging flame, other than the sky full of red, there was no other color. The sudden appearance of the purple light. Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes narrowed slightly as she immediately headed towards the direction of the purple light without hesitation. The moment she moved, the surrounding flames seemed to have grown eyes as it swallowed her up. The increasingly intense, scorching feeling eroded her body and mind, spreading to her limbs and bones. Yiqing Luo gave a muffled groan. No matter how much she could endure, under this kind of scorching flame, the feeling of burning her into ashes was still very uncomfortable. Her eyes were red. Her body was suffering from the intense pain of the flames. She couldn't help but feel irritated and stuffy. Her fingertips brushed past her fingers, which were already empty, suppressing the fickleness in her heart as she tensed up her nerves. In this refining vessel, she absolutely could not release her profound qi. All the energy would become the vessel's energy. She knew Huang Wuyo was provoking her. He intentionally used the news from the outside world and the psychological pressure caused by the sky, full of flames, to agitate her. Once she panicked, she wanted to rush out of the refining vessel. Then it would go according to Huang Wuyo's intentions. Yiqing Luo continued to move forward. That raging flame followed swiftly. As though it was staring at her, no matter what, it had to swallow her up. By the time she reached the direction of the purple light, it was already the time for a stick of incense to burn. Yiqing Luo was already exhausted. All the sweat on her body evaporated under the intense flames, making her feel extremely uncomfortable. She forcefully exhaled a few mouthfuls of hot air as she looked around, but there was no trace of the purple light. Yiqing Luo pursed her pink lips as she slowly sat down to rest. Earlier along the way, the pain of contending against the raging flames was simply unbearable for ordinary people. If she was slightly careless, it was very likely that she would be completely swallowed up by that sky full of flames. But in this process, Yiqing Luo obviously discovered that her body's degree of heat resistance was getting higher and higher. Even the raging flames wrapped around her face. She felt that it wasn't that unbearable anymore, other than the huge expanse of raging flames, which kept surging into her body as though it wanted to refine her internal organs through the raging flames. There was also the profound jade heart in his chest, which was also unceasingly stirring. She could already endure being engulfed by such raging flames. This was a good sign, as long as he could stand the heat. She would have a greater chance of escaping this place. Just then, suddenly, that purple light flashed past Yi-Ching Luo's eyes once again. This time, it was extremely obvious in front of Yi-Ching Luo. It was obvious. Yi-Ching Luo seemed to have sensed the other party's presence at one glance. Her pink lips moved slightly as she spat out 3 words, Zhu Wuxin. As soon as he opened his mouth, a heat wave rushed into his mouth. Her throat was dry and prickly. That purple light, it was Zhu Wuxin's aura. What was going on? Not allowing Yi-Ching Luo to think deeply. The purple light disappeared in front of Yi-Ching Luo very quickly. But Yi-Ching Luo saw it clearly, in the direction where the purple light disappeared. Yi-Ching Luo only hesitated for several breaths before she lifted her feet and walked towards that direction with difficulty. Zhu Wuxin might know how to leave this refining vessel. As time went by, Yi-Ching Luo's footsteps became heavier and heavier. She felt as though she was walking on the spot. The direction of Zhu Wuxin's aura was obviously very near, but it seemed as though it was far away. Trash, 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash, 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 53:12. But that faint purple light seemed to have given Yi-Ching Luo her last hope. Relying on her amazing willpower, Yi-Ching Luo was actually close to the refining vessel's body under the burning of the raging flame. Yes, the body. Yi-Ching Luo could clearly see the outline of the body that was being burned by the raging flame. Vaguely, she could see the treacherous and mysterious totem jumping in the fire. Yi-Ching Luo estimated in her heart. This refining vessel was about the size of an ordinary family's main hall. But it was difficult to take a step here. She was still suppressing the discomfort and only managed to walk a few hundred meters of distance. But she had already touched the body. Then she was not far from finding the exit. This thought made Yi-Ching Luo's sweaty eyes slightly sober. Clang! A slight collision sound. Yi-Ching Luo's gaze followed it. Faint purple light surged on the totem on the body of the weapon. Yi-Ching Luo stretched out her hand. Boom! A fire dragon mixed with fire and lightning fell down. Yi-Ching Luo's hand suddenly felt hot. Following that, the blazing flame wrapped around her. At the same time, Huang Wuyo's furious voice came from outside the refining vessel. You're really the daughter of Gu, or your life is so tough that you can still stir up trouble in there? Following that was the sound of Huang Wuyo's footsteps, step by step, like a clap of thunder. Yi-Ching Luo shut her eyes tightly. Her whole body felt like it was being burnt by the raging flame. She could even smell a thick burnt smell on her body. But when the raging flame was wrapping around her, she could feel an inexplicable aura surging rapidly from her body. That was a kind of power that even she couldn't control. The buzzing sound in her ears made her dizzy. In front of her, there was only a thick red. I'd like to see how you're going to break my formation. Huang Wuyo's tone was filled with anger as he sneered. Although Yi-Ching Luo was fighting against the raging flame, but for some reason, her 5 senses were very sensitive. She could clearly hear that Huang Wuyo seemed to be searching for something outside the refining vessel, and then stood beside it. A drop of thick black blood fell from the top of his head. Yi-Ching Luo could vaguely smell the faint scent of blood. In a moment, that drop of black blood fell into the raging flames. Boom, boom, boom. The entire crafting vessel instantly erupted with a strong dark force. Yi-Ching Luo's entire body was sent flying by this force, crashing heavily onto the body of the weapon. She didn't even have the strength to stabilize her body. She slid down from the artifact and fell to the ground. The increasingly intense and terrifying fire dragon bared its fangs and brandished its claws as it twisted towards Yi-Ching Luo. Originally, I wanted to slowly refine you. Since you don't know what's good for you, then you shall follow that divine phoenix profound heart jade of yours and become mine. Yi Qing Luo's ears were buzzing nonstop, as though something was about to burst her eardrums. Her breathing became heavier. The scalding heat made her feel as if her throat was on fire. The tyrannical power in her body was still rampaging through her limbs and bones. It was like a volcano that was about to erupt. Oh, she moaned softly. One of his hands moved slowly with some difficulty. In the end, it was on her abdomen. The scalding heat energy was gathering towards this direction bit by bit. Pain. Her abdomen. So painful. Trash, seventh young mistress. Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash, seventh young mistress. Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 53:13. Yi Qing Luo's breathing tightened bit by bit. In the haze, she saw the faint purple light encircling her bit by bit. In the end, it encircled her waist. The fusion of the two energies made the pain in her body slightly alleviated. What is this? Huang Wuyo's shocked voice was heard from outside the refining vessel. Following that was the sound of stumbling footsteps, as though something was colliding. No. How is this possible? How could she possibly have such powerful energy? The refining vessel was not only refining Yi Qing Luo's body, not only refining Yi Qing Luo's divine phoenix profound jade heart, but also, it was refining her soul, her everything. Logically speaking, in this refining vessel, Yi Qing Luo's energy would be refined along with the refining vessel, becoming the energy after the refinement. How could she possibly be able to explode such powerful energy? So powerful that even he felt horrified. And the current Yi Qing Luo totally didn't know the shock in Huang Wuyo's heart. Her hands were tightly pressed against her abdomen. Her fingers wanted to exert force, but she forcefully endured it. The two small hands, which were still fair under the raging flames, were now bursting with green veins. The energy which spread from her abdomen to her limbs and bones seemed to have broken through the seal in her body. A steady flow of profound energy broke through the blockage in her body, attacking the heat, which was like boiling water. Yi Qing Luo felt the swelling pain in her abdomen, making her feel uncomfortable. But the energy which spread throughout her body made her greedily absorb the profound jade heart, bit by bit merging with her body. She didn't know how long had passed. When Yi Qing Luo opened her eyes again, she could no longer feel the heat in the raging flames, as though she was already used to this heat, as though she was already immune to the heat in the refining vessel. She didn't feel any discomfort at all. The faint purple light encircled her abdomen bit by bit, before finally returning to a peaceful state. At the same time, the unbearable swelling pain also dissipated in an instant. Yi Qing Luo's eyes drooped as she touched her abdomen curiously. Just now, what was going on? Why did she feel as though there was another energy which helped her? Without much time to think, the refining vessel suddenly shook violently. Her body suddenly staggered, and her whole body fell down along with the shaking of the refining vessel. At the same time, the flames that were spreading in the surroundings also gradually subsided as the refining vessel shook. What are you waiting for? Come out now. A clear voice whispered in her ear. Yi Qing Luo raised her head and saw a bright ray of light right on top of her head. That was the exit. Yi Qing Luo's charming eyes lit up slightly as she speedily got up and headed towards that exit. No. This seat absolutely won't let you escape. Huang Wuyo's furious and frenzied voice was like bursts of thunder, blasting into Yi Qing Luo's ears. A strong pressure came crashing down from the sky, as though it wanted to press Yi Qing Luo back into the refining vessel. Yi Qing Luo's long and narrow eyes narrowed slightly as her fingertips moved slightly, and a bewitching red, profound glow encircled her. There was a loud bang sound. Yi Qing Luo broke through the brilliant rays. Then a hand grabbed her wrist and pulled her to the side. What entered her eyes was a strange and cold basement. In such a huge space, there were only 8 candles, swaying, flickering, illuminating the surrounding environment. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler and collect. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler and collect. Chapter 53:14. Yi-Ching Luo took a clear look at the person in front of her. It was no longer the man in the fiery red robe. Right now, he was dressed in a snow-white robe, which contrasted against that pale face of his. His lips were devoid of any color of blood. A pair of chilly eyes congealed deeply on Yi-Ching Luo, as though it was filled with countless emotions. Yi-Ching Luo's slender brows creased slightly as she clasped the man's wrist and felt his pulse. Zhu Wuexin, what's the matter with you? Her fingertips had yet to touch the man's wrist when it was avoided. His voice was chilly as he replied calmly. I'm fine. Now isn't the time to worry about me. Yi-Ching Luo's brows creased even tighter as the gaze she used to look at Zhu Wuexin was filled with suspicion. Zhu Wuexin avoided her pulse checking. Apparently, it was because his pulse was extremely weak now. She stretched out her hand and was about to forcefully clasp Zhu Wuexin's wrist to check on his condition. Zhu Wuexin suddenly clasped her wrist as his pale lips spat out 2 words, "Be careful." He used a little strength and pulled the young lady into his arms. Her legs swiftly moved backwards. Bam! The intense, profound wave caused that candle flame to sway, as though it was brandishing its claws, searching for its prey in the darkness. After avoiding that attack, that icy cold large palm on her wrist had already shifted away. Under the darkness, the man's labored breathing could be heard clearly. Something wasn't right with Zhu Wuexin's condition, but she didn't give Zhu Wuexin a chance to check on his body. Yi-Ching Luo frowned as she took out a medicine bottle from her bosom and stuffed it into Zhu Wuexin's hand. Huang Wuyo should be in a weakened state now, so it's easier to deal with him. After I settle him, I'll bring you away. That bottle of medicinal pills was specially refined by her to be carried around with her. It had the miraculous effect of prolonging one's life and healing injuries. It was because she had several experiences that she was unable to retrieve the medicinal pills which were stored in her realm space in case her mental energy was disconnected. She specially hid it in the most secretive place on her body. Huang Wuyo had only taken away her profound phoenix ring. He would never have thought that she would have hidden other pills on her body. Yi-Ching Luo slowly stood up as she stood in front of Zhu Wuexin. The girl's figure was slender and could not be considered tall. However, it gave people an indescribable sense of security. The girl's slender fingers gently moved in the darkness. A flame feather fan appeared between her slender fingers. She glanced sideways at Zhu Wuxin. Her tone was calm and her words were firm. You, stay alive and wait for me. You can't die without my permission. As soon as she finished speaking, she leaped into the air, her fiery red dress drawing a beautiful arc in the air. When the glower flame fan opened up, Yi-Ching Luo could clearly feel a huge surge of energy in her body, surging and surging, following the music in her body, rapidly spreading to the glower flame fan. The glowing flame fan was bound to her soul. When she was refining the vessel, both her body and soul were being refined, so she was unable to summon her gourd flame fan. After leaving the refining vessel, Yi-Ching Luo also gave it a try. The connection between her and the sacred beast, as well as the azure water divine armament, was still broken. However, only the gourd flame fan could sense her. This was enough to show that Huang Wuyo still had some restraining fear towards the 4 sacred beasts and the azure water divine armament. Even though he felt that the refinement had a 100% success rate, he was still fully prepared. There was some kind of array in this place which suppressed Yi-Ching Luo's mental energy, the sacred beast, and the azure water divine armament's connection. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 53:15. Then, as long as Huang Wuyo died, all the problems would be solved. Yiqing Luo's target was very clear, directly towards the direction where the profound energy came from. The glower flame fan on her fingertips swept up an imposing profound wave. The majestic air waves surged in the entire sealed underground room. The ground shook and the stone walls started to crumble due to the strong surrounding air pressure. Yiqing Luo's gaze shifted to her own hand as her eyes shone slightly. This feeling, it was as though all the energy which had been sealed in her body for a long time had been released. Furthermore, she could control her own power without any qualms. She didn't feel the slightest strain or the slightest bit of backlash. It was totally, unprecedentedly relaxed. How could her body, under the circumstances where she had not advanced to profound grade, suddenly undergo such an earth-shattering change? Without much time to think, Yiqing Luo's attack had already landed directly on that black figure in the dark. Yiqing Luo's action of escaping from the refining vessel had obviously disrupted the other party's plans and rhythm. His furious attack was also avoided by Zhu Wu Xian and Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's counterattack was avoided by him. Under the dim candlelight, one could vaguely see the figure who was shrouded in a black cloak. Yiqing Luo's brows narrowed slightly as her fingertips moved swiftly. The raging profound energy was like a fire snake as it swiftly coiled towards the other party. The profound wave spread extremely quickly. In just a moment, the other party was trapped within her attack range. Fengqing Luo. The other party's voice was filled with resentment as it carried a vicious, murderous intent, as though he was extremely infuriated. Yiqing Luo only felt that this voice sounded a little strange, but she couldn't tell what was strange about it. But she didn't think too much about it, because at this moment, she was completely certain that the conversation between Huang Wuyo and Long Ao Tian in the refining vessel had been verified. The current Huang Wuyo had forcefully broken through the Divine Phoenix seal previously and then expended a huge amount of energy to set up such a huge trap in Mount Wurun, even if there was a sinister array which could replenish his energy. But after all, his deeds had already spread throughout the Devil Domain and other realms. Other than his corpse puppets, which could capture food for him or the captives from the battlefield, he had no other way to obtain sufficient food. The current Huang Wuyo, his strength was in a weakened state. That was to say, now was the best chance to kill Huang Wuyo. Yiqing Luo swept upwards. The glower flame fan turned into a sharp blade, aiming straight for the opponent's vitals. Fengqing Luo, can you really do it? Suddenly, the black figure's voice became low, revealing a strange gentleness. It was a gentleness that was completely different from Huang Wuyo's ruthless and sinister voice. Meanwhile, Yiqing Luo stood in front of the black figure at a close distance as she saw that person's sleeves moving slightly and the black cloak which was covering his head slowly fell off. The candlelight swayed even more violently. It clearly illuminated the gentle and elegant face of the person in front of him. It was a handsome face. His facial features were refined, and he looked like a noble young master, noble and awe-inspiring. In particular, those glass-like eyes seemed to contain the warmth of the spring breeze. Yiqing Luo's actions stopped just like that. A pair of long and narrow eyes widened in disbelief. Widened. How could it possibly be him? Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 53:16. Gujingyu. Yiqing Luo's pupils kept constricting as she looked at that familiar face in disbelief. That man's thin lips curled upwards as he gave a warm smile. That smile was like a spring breeze. Yiqing Luo was stunned on the spot, and it was this moment of days. The handsome and refined man's eyes flashed past a trace of ruthless, murderous intent. That hand which was shrouded in the black cloak suddenly rose up. Yiqing Luo saw a flash of silvery color. Her body's instinct towards danger and her acute senses had already made the most intuitive evasive move the minute she sensed the danger and murderous intent. But no matter how swift her reaction was, earlier that moment of daze was enough to give the opponent a chance to take action against her. Yiqing Luo. Zhu Wuxian's tone was filled with a rare panic. He stood up abruptly as he dashed towards Yiqing Luo's direction. He who was seriously injured, how would he be able to make it in time? Yiqing Luo managed to avoid her vital parts, but that sharp blade, which was covered with strange black totem, had already broken her face. Blood splattered under the candlelight. A burst of piercing pain and bone-piercing cold seemed to seep into her bone marrow. After Yiqing Luo avoided it, she raised her head abruptly as she looked at Gu Jingyu. Her hand swiftly pressed on the wound which had been slashed open, blocking the acupoints on the wound to prevent the poison on the sharp blade from entering deep into her body. This raise of her head made Yiqing Luo's expression turn uglier. She saw Gu Jingyu licking his lips in disappointment after his strike failed as he raised the sharp blade. The blood that splashed in the air and was about to fall suddenly turned into sparkling blood beads and flew toward Gu Jingyu. About 4 to 5 blood beads, which were formed from her blood, entered a palm-sized gourd which Gu Jingyu had taken out. He kept the small gourd and hung it on his waist. When he raised his eyes to look at Yiqing Luo, his thin lips curled into a sneer of ridicule. Fengqing Luo, you won't be complacent for long. This seat will eventually refine you to become this seat's strength. After Yiqing Luo sealed the blood on the wound on her face, she speedily flipped over and with a movement of her fingertips, she set off profound waves towards the other party. But after all, the other party's face made Yiqing Luo unable to harden her heart. In front of him, the figure shrouded in darkness instantly turned into a thick black fog and blended into the darkness. Meanwhile, a large number of zombie-like puppets bearing their fangs and brandishing their claws suddenly swarmed in from all directions. It was a corpse puppet. Furthermore, they were a bunch of defective goods. These defective products were clearly not completed. Their bodies reeked of a rancid stench, and their flesh was turned over. Almost none of them were in perfect condition. There were at least 100 undead corpse puppets. There were so many of them that it seemed like they wanted to fill up the entire basement. The entire basement was instantly filled with the disgusting stench of decay and the smell of blood. It blocked Yiqing Luo from following the profound Enshi to chase after Gu Jingyu. Let's leave this place first. Yiqing Luo didn't hesitate any further as she turned around and helped Zhu Wuxian up as her fingers, which were holding the glower flame, fan tightened slightly. If they stayed for a while longer, she and Zhu Wuxian weren't killed by the undead corpse puppets, but they were killed by this bunch of disgusting undead corpse puppets. After taking the medicinal pill, Zhu Wuxian's complexion looked slightly better, but his lips were still pale. When Yiqing Luo helped him up and left, most of his body weight was on Yiqing Luo. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 53:17. Yiqing Luo could clearly feel the coldness on Zhu Wuxian's body, as though he had just defrosted out from the ice cellar. His body was really not normal. Hold on tight to me. Yiqing Luo kept the misgivings in her heart as she locked Zhu Wuxian's waist with one hand, as she instructed him in a low voice. After that, she raised her wrist as the raging flame fan opened up. Bam, bam, bam. The profound rays were like a waterfall as it poured downwards, instantly drowning the entire underground room. The majestic and powerful, profound energy swallowed everything in the surroundings. Even the sturdy underground room started to crack as it shook incessantly. Fine stones, one by one, fell downwards, attacking the raging profound wave which formed into a tornado. At the same time, Yiqing Luo's surroundings seemed to be enveloped by a layer of red glow, which was wrapped in raging flames, dazzling and piercing. A swoosh sound was heard, followed by a loud, rumbling sound. Yiqing Luo brought Zhu Wu Xi in as she dashed out of the underground room. What entered their eyes was a dense forest which was enveloped in eerie Qi. The surroundings gave off a rotten and damp smell, with a faint stench. When they raised their eyes, through the strange-shaped leaves, they could see the dark sky, just as the two of them walked out of the underground room. Behind them, the place where the underground room was located had suddenly exploded. Yiqing Luo turned her head back. He could still vaguely see that the defective, undead corpse puppets had been torn apart by the dark force that was like a raging flame. Together with the basement, it had become a ruin. Yiqing Luo only used her perceptive power to sweep one round, and after ascertaining that there were no other living beings in the surroundings, she supported Zhu Wu Xian and left without any hesitation. When she brought Zhu Wu Xian out of the uninhabited mountain, she then understood. Gu Jingyu didn't even have the intention to battle with her, choosing to leave without any hesitation. This was not only because the other party's ability was not as good as her, who had completely transformed. The bigger reason was probably because the entire Devil region was no longer the same as before. Dark clouds rolled in the sky, forming a patch of darkness. The air was filled with a nauseating smell of blood. Occasionally, lightning flashed across the pitch-black sky. The dark clouds rolled downwards, as though a gap had been torn open. And looking over, the Devil region, which originally had peculiar buildings, had already been leveled to flat ground. The flames of war continued, and smoke rose from all directions. Yiqing Luo's mind suddenly recalled the conversation between Huang Wuyo and his men when she was still refining the vessel. Huang Wuyo was telling the truth, using undead puppets to wage war on the major realms. Yiqing Luo's expression suddenly changed. Oh no! Everyone in the band of brothers remained in the infernal domain. If she started a war, wouldn't her brothers be in even more danger? She had to rush to the demon palace as soon as possible and meet up with everyone. Yiqing Luo was just planning to support Zhu Wu Xian as they headed towards the direction of the Devil Palace. Suddenly, she felt a sharp pain in her abdomen, and her face turned pale. She paused for a moment and raised her hand to press on her abdomen. The next moment, she felt an extremely powerful magnetic field surging in her mind, as if some kind of power was returning to her body. On her wrist, the azure dew bracelet that was like a blossoming cherry blossom faintly burned her. Azure dew bracelet, vast water artifact. He was back. The connection between her and the vast water divine artifact was re-established. Yiqing Luo's breathing paused, as she hadn't had the time to contact her companions in the pet space. Her abdomen was in intense pain once again. Following that, her entire body's energy seemed to have been sucked out as her vision turned black as she fell into darkness. Vaguely, she heard Zhu Wu Xian calling out her name anxiously. Yiqing Luo? Yiqing Luo. Trash, 7th young mistress. Lord Di Zun, please be gentler with your love. Trash, 7th young mistress. Lord Di Zun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 53:18. When Yiqing Luo woke up once again, she was lying in a slightly dark room, and there was a faint sandalwood fragrance which smelled nice. She glanced sideways as she surveyed the surroundings. This was a spacious bedroom, and the furnishings displayed the owner's taste. She slowly propped herself up as she tried to circulate her profound jade heart. Warm, profound energy spread through her limbs and bones. Perhaps it was because she didn't have enough rest, so even though she had just woken up, her body still felt a little tired. She rubbed her brows as she recalled what happened before she fainted. At that time, she didn't even have a chance to react. The moment her tummy hurt, she lost consciousness. She lowered her head as she took a look at her flat tummy, as she frowned slightly. Could it be? Huang Wuyo had made use of her blood to execute some forbidden art in an attempt to destroy her body? Suddenly, the room door was pushed open as a figure walked in with quick steps. Yiqing Luo raised her eyes and saw a cold and noble-looking Zhu Wuxian dressed in a white long robe walking in front of her. Zhu Wuxian, are you all right? Yiqing Luo straightened her body as she recalled that Zhu Wuxian's body was not normal when they were in the basement. Zhu Wuxian lit up the candle in the room, and as the candle flame swayed, it lit up the entire bedroom. He pulled a wooden chair over as he sat by the bedside as his gaze was serene, yet complicated as he looked at Yiqing Luo. That gaze made Yiqing Luo frown uncomfortably. Zhu Wuxian, I'm fine. The man's voice was clear. Yiqing Luo got up and was about to pull Zhu Wuxian's arm, then check my pulse. Before her hand could get near Zhu Wuxian, her wrist was held back by him. The man's gaze towards her became even more complicated. It was so complicated that Yiqing Luo's brows creased even tighter. Her vision fell onto Zhu Wuxian's hand, which was holding her wrist, and met with that pair of complicated eyes. You're making it hard for me to believe that you're all right. The one who's in trouble isn't me, but you. Zhu Wuxian placed her hand back into the blanket. Her voice was clear and cold, but the words she spat out were like a bomb thrown out. You don't even know that you're pregnant? Yiqing Luo seemed as though she was struck by lightning as her eyes widened as she looked at Zhu Wuxian in shock. What was he saying? Pregnant? Her? How is that possible? There were no signs of pregnancy at all. Yiqing Luo suddenly recalled that when she was in the basement, there was indeed a strange feeling in her abdomen. When she left the basement, she fainted from the pain in her abdomen. Pain! Yiqing Luo's hand suddenly pressed on her stomach. Before I fainted, my stomach. The child is fine. Zhu Wuxian's gaze was deep and serene as he looked at Yiqing Luo's shocked but unconcealable joy, as well as the faint look of anticipation and concern towards the child in her tummy. His gaze grew deeper, but after all, she had suffered quite a bit of shock earlier. If she wants the child to be safe, then she has to recuperate properly. Yiqing Luo's mind was in a mess, almost unable to think properly. She couldn't believe that in her stomach there was actually a baby that belonged to her and DMO Xian. Their baby, Yiqing Luo's hand was placed gently on her abdomen. Her fingertips trembled gently. If DMO Xian knew about this, he would definitely be as ecstatic as her. He would be filled with mixed feelings of agitation and nervousness. You're very happy? Zhu Wuxian looked at the young lady's gentle face and seemed to have thought of something as her entire body emitted a sweet and joyous aura, as his heart felt a slight piercing pain. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Everyone please collect it. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love and hit me. Chapter 53:19. Yiqing Luo's eyes drooped as she looked deeply at her flat tummy as her fingers trembled gently. Happy. Naturally, I'm happy. This was her and Xian's child. In her tummy was the child which belonged to her and Xian. Although there was bewilderment, nervousness, apprehension, shock, but most of it was the joy and agitation of having the crystallization of her and Xian's love. Zhu Wuxian's fingers under his white robes clenched slightly. That cold and indifferent face concealed all the emotions in his heart very well. He only calmly looked at Yiqing Luo. His gaze was as cold as water, and his voice was clear. But have you ever thought that the current situation, your pregnancy, will only drag you down? Yiqing Luo's hand, which was caressing her tummy, suddenly paused as her pupils contracted slightly. Zhu Wuxian's voice was very cold. You're pregnant, so you must take care of the child in your tummy and not act recklessly like now. Otherwise, it will not be beneficial to your body and the child in your tummy. Moreover, the pregnant you, do you still have the ability or energy to summon the sacred beast or activate the vast water god relic's energy? Have you ever thought of all these? Yiqing Luo was stunned when she heard that as she fell silent. right? Now was the best time to capture Huang Wuyo and get rid of him. She was pregnant at this critical juncture. Even if it was for the baby, she absolutely could not put herself in danger again. Nor could she go all out against Huang Wuyo. She wasn't alone now. Furthermore, the pregnant, her activating the god relic's energy, would it affect the baby? This child has come at the wrong time. Chu Wuxian's gaze was chilly. Yiqing Luo, now various domains are fighting with Huang Wuyo's undead puppets and undead army, causing all the lives in the various domains to be plunged into misery and suffering. And the minute Huang Wuyo uses the forbidden arts and recovers 70% of his power, I'm afraid that by then the number of people who will die will increase, and the domains that will be invaded will increase. Zhu Wuxian's vision slowly fell onto Yiqing Luo's palm, which was caressing her abdomen. Especially, Huang Wuyo has now treated you as his vessel, and even Feng, she has been targeted by him. If he knew that you're pregnant, guess, would he make use of the child in your womb as a bargaining chip? Zhu Wuxian's words were like a sharp weapon that ruthlessly tore apart the most realistic situation. Zhu Wuxian's words were very cruel, but it was undeniable that he was right. With the birth of this baby, she had to face a lot of problems. Yiqing Luo, you only have one way now. Zhu Wuxian's chilly gaze was at the same level as Yiqing Luo. His voice was calm and indifferent like water. However, the words that came out of his mouth were extremely cruel. This child cannot be kept. Impossible. Yiqing Luo's pupils suddenly widened as her body stopped abruptly and both her arms wrapped around her waist. This is my and Ah Xian's child. Our first child. I absolutely cannot not want this child. Her gaze towards Zhu Wuxian was filled with vigilance and anger. My baby's timing might indeed be wrong, but since it's here, it's here. The baby is already in my womb, so I cannot possibly give up on the baby. I don't want to hear this kind of words for the second time. Zhu Wuxian went silent. Yiqing Luo caressed her abdomen as she didn't say another word. After a long time, she was a little tired from maintaining that position and slowly leaned back against the bed head. But her hand was still placed on her abdomen. When her brows drooped, her long and narrow eyes were filled with an obvious gentle maternal warmth. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 53:20. The baby's arrival made her overjoyed and excited. But as God Realm's divine phoenix, Feng family's eldest grandchild, she had to bear her mother's dying wish. She had to step forward bravely to settle Huang Wuyo. Especially now, Huang Wuyo's corpse puppets had already infiltrated into various realms. But now, she had lost track of Huang Wuyo's whereabouts. Once she gave Huang Wuyo a chance, she was afraid that, based on Huang Wuyo's viciousness, plus the fact that various realms were in flames, Huang Wuyo might possibly make use of this convenience to replenish the missing energy in his body. By then, it would be even harder to deal with him. And she, under the premise of having this baby, all her actions had to consider the baby's safety. Yiqing Luo touched her abdomen as her mind was filled with thousands of thoughts. The room was silent for a long time. Finally, it was Chu Wuxian who broke the silence. He seemed to have understood something as he gave a long sigh and his cold voice rang faintly. You don't have to worry too much. The child in your stomach is much stronger than you think. Yiqing Luo was stunned as she raised her head to look at him. In the refining vessel, under that kind of intense flame, the child still managed to survive. Chu Wuxian's gaze fell onto her abdomen. Plus, after the refining vessel's 100 smelting flame, not only has your body been tempered, the child in your stomach has also gained a blessing in disguise. Yiqing Luo's pupils contracted slightly. She recalled that when she was refining the vessel, Huang Wuyo had continuously increased the intensity of the flames. However, the initial discomfort she felt after being burned by the flames was gradually reduced to not feeling much of a pain. Initially, she thought she was used to that kind of temperature. Now that she thought about it, She was afraid that the change in her body was related to the refining vessel. At that time, her body had been tempered by the refining vessel's 100 smelting flame, so that her body had undergone an earth-shattering change. As compared to before, the state of her god physique was even better. The baby in her stomach, under the 100 smelting flame, it survived well. Not only that, under the situation where she kept on depleting her physical strength and profound energy, the baby was still healthy and had not suffered any fluctuations. It was indeed considered as a blessing in disguise. But what made Yiqing Luo puzzled was, when she was refining the vessel, when her physical strength was not enough, she obviously felt a surge of energy coming from her abdomen. It was this power that allowed her to hold on. Only then could she successfully follow Zhu Wuxin's aura and leave the refining vessel. That power, what could it be? So, coincidentally, it was at the abdomen position. Could it be that it had something to do with her baby? This thought merely flashed past and was dispelled by Yiqing Luo. The baby in her stomach hadn't even formed yet. Speaking of which, if Huang Wuyo knew that the refining vessel he had spent so much time and effort to prepare had actually made her stronger, he would have been shocked. He was probably going to vomit blood again. Yiqing Luo checked her own pulse, and after ascertaining that her baby was fine, she sat up straight. Where are we now? The design of this room did not seem like the demon palace of the demon domain. The two of them should have already left the infernal domain. As expected, Zhu Wuxin answered, the immortal realm. Yiqing Luo's brows creased as she was puzzled why Zhu Wu Xian brought her to God Realm. Perhaps he had seen through Yiqing Luo's thoughts as Zhu Wu Xian said calmly, Huang Wuyo has already left the infernal domain and currently, a large portion of the corpse puppets army are attacking towards the immortal realm. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 53:21. The moment Patriarch Feng returned to God Realm, he had already headed to the battlefield with the acting god Emperor. Feng family might not be able to hold on for long. So, I felt that you might want to return to God Realm, so I brought you back. Hearing Zhu Wu Xian's words, Yiqing Luo's expression sunk. Huang Wuyo was planning to attack the three realms directly to fulfill his ambition. Yiqing Luo remembered, based on Huang Wuyo's current state, did he have the ability to attack the three realms? Once the three realms joined forces, he didn't have much of a chance of winning. But Huang Wuyo had done it. Moreover, before she fainted, Huang Wuyo had already employed the undead puppets to attack the devil's domain. And now, to the three realms. Huang Wuyo shouldn't be doing something he had no confidence in. Unless, what reliance did he have? Yiqing Luo's expression was unpredictable, as her hands, which were hanging by the side of the bed, clenched tightly into fists. Zhu Wu Xian, thank you. She got off the bed, and with a wave of her arm, the blazing red robe landed on her body. I must go stop Huang Wuyo. She walked quickly towards the door. But before she stepped out of the room, Zhu Wu Xian's cold voice was heard from behind. If it was in the past, I wouldn't advise you. But since you want to keep the child in your tummy, then you shouldn't go over. Yiqing Luo's footsteps halted. Her hand slowly landed on her tummy. Zhu Wu Xian looked at her back as he said word by word, you know very well that Huang Wuyo must have something to rely on for him to launch such a large-scale battle. If you join in the battle, you won't be able to protect the child in your tummy. Yiqing Luo's body tensed up as the slender fingers on her tummy gradually stiffened. Yiqing Luo, stay here. Zhu Wu Xian's cold voice carried a hint of bewitchment as he walked step by step towards Yiqing Luo's back. This is the safest place in the three realms. Stay here, I'll take care of you, and you'll be able to give birth to the child safely. Yiqing Luo, for the child in your tummy, you can't take the risk. His hand slowly stretched towards Yiqing Luo's wrist. His face was as cold as cast, and his thin lips carried a faint smile that was hard to detect. But just as Zhu Wu Xian's hand was about to grab Yiqing Luo, Yiqing Luo suddenly took 2 steps back and walked out of the room, avoiding Zhu Wuxian's hand. She turned around. The wind fluttered her blazing red robe, and her long black hair fluttered like silk. That devastatingly beautiful face didn't have the slightest trace of emotion. She looked at Zhu Wuxian coldly. Her pink lips moved slightly, and her words were filled with a faint coldness. Zhu Wuxian, I don't care why you want me to stay, but you know very well that I can't let Zhu Wuxian attack the 3 realms without any scruples. I can't watch my brothers fight a bloody battle, and I definitely won't let my family suffer any harm. She paused. Her long and narrow eyes faintly flashed with a trace of softness. I won't let Ai Xian fight alone. She was the divine phoenix of the God Realm, the pillar of the God Realm. She had promised her mother that she would protect the God Realm that her mother had failed to protect. She had also promised her brothers that she would not let them suffer any harm because of her. She even promised Dmo Xian that no matter what, she would face it together with him. She couldn't possibly abandon her own responsibilities because of her own selfish desires. Zhu Wuxian's icy cold eyes faintly showed some fluctuations of emotions. Then you don't care about the child and your tummy's safety? 7th Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. 7th Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 53:22. I will try my best to protect him. Yiqing Luo's tone was resolute. Zhu Wuxian didn't say a word for a long time. Yiqing Luo turned around as her jet black hair fluttered. Her back view was suave and carried an unquestionable charisma. Zhu Wuxian, thank you. Goodbye. This time round, Zhu Wuxian didn't stop her. But just as Yiqing Luo's red figure completely disappeared in front of Zhu Wuxian, Zhu Wuxian's icy cold voice rang faintly. Dmo Xian. Is he really that good? So good that you disregard everything and go over to his side? Huang Wuyu's undead puppets army had grown in numbers, and it was already more than 1,000,000, and it had the tendency of exploding. Those undead puppets were all elite puppets. They swiftly attacked and occupied God Realm, Heaven Realm, Earth Realm, even Nirvana Realm. It was a bloodbath. There were people who could recognize them. Among those undead puppets, many of them were their loved ones whom they had been searching for a long time. Moreover, they all had one thing in common. Before they went missing, they were all extremely talented in cultivation, or they had been soaked in medicinal pills since young, the hope of their clans. Now, all of them had turned into puppets that didn't know pain, didn't fear death, didn't have souls and 5 senses, only knowing how to kill. Yiqing Luo's entire journey was littered with corpses and smoke. The raging fire pierced her eyes. The air was filled with a thick stench of blood. All of these were the traces left behind by the war. Yiqing Luo endured the surging feeling in her stomach as she placed one hand on her abdomen and speedily walked on the battlefield, nearing her destination. God Realm. About 100 miles away from the Feng residence, it was a wasteland. The originally bustling main city had long fallen into enemy hands. Only the Feng residence and a few aristocratic residences remained standing. A purple figure stood on top of the city walls with his hands behind his back. The battle cries of the undead puppets and God Realm's guards reverberated in the sky. The man's peerless face was filled with an icy coldness. Still worried about last Luo? An old voice was heard from the man's back. The coldness on the man's body receded slightly. Grandfather, that girl is the destined ruler of the divine emperors, the destined successor of the God Realm. So, no matter what happens, nothing will happen to her. Patriarch Feng slowly walked to the man's side and looked at the battlefield with him. Blood dyed the dark sky red. Emotion. Feng Clan's master suddenly spoke. He looked sideways at the man beside him, and he sighed, "Go, grandfather." Dmo Xian was slightly stunned. His voice was slightly hoarse. Feng Clan master closed his eyes. "I know you are staying here to protect us for Luoya. That's enough. DMO Xian's slender fingers slowly clenched. Phone Clan Master raised his hand and patted his shoulder. We are also very worried about that girl. I'm afraid only you can find her in this world. Go find her. She's Feng Ji's daughter. Only she can stop this catastrophe. Between DMO Xian's eyes, there was a faint flickering light. His gaze shifted to the corpses strewn all over the battlefield. Finally, he clenched his fist. Grandfather, I will definitely bring Luo heir, before he could finish his words. Suddenly, a deafening roar exploded. Not far away, a strong force was approaching from afar, as if it was breaking through the sky with irresistible force. That was hundreds of undead puppets clustered together. On top of those undead puppets, a figure shrouded in a black robe stood against the wind. The violent and tyrannical hurricane made the other party's black robe flutter. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Lord Overlord, please be gentle with your love. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Lord Overlord, please be gentle with your love. Chapter 53:23. Very quickly, he was nearing. When DMO Xian saw that person's face clearly, the handsome brows on his peerless face creased slightly. It was actually him, Dragon. Proud. Heavens. Recalling that it was because of Long Outyin that he separated from Yiqing Luo on Devil Destruction Mountain, DMO Xian's heart surged with raging fury. Long Outyin had betrayed Lil Luo Er's trust. It was because he had lied to Lil Luo which was why she fell into his trap. DMO Xian didn't dare to imagine how much suffering Yiqing Luo would have suffered if she fell into Huang Wuyo's hands. Long Outyin, you still have the guts to come out. The minute the World Group's members saw Long Outyin, all of their eyes were filled with rage. The gazes they shot towards Long Outyin were filled with hatred. Long Outyin, who was stepping on numerous dead puppets' heads, took a glance at them expressionlessly, and finally his gaze landed onto DMO Xian. He opened his mouth indifferently without much emotion. Why wouldn't this seat dare to come out? Do you think that you can win this seat? The World Group's members' hands, which were holding onto their weapons, were trembling from anger and frustration. Yes, their abilities were indeed not comparable to Long Outyin, this 10,000-year-old demon dragon, but the minute they thought that Yiqing Luo had fallen into Huang Wuyo's hands because of him, even if they knew that they couldn't win him, they still wanted to charge up and fight with him. Long Yunzhan's azure blue eyes were like rippling waves. That usually expressionless face was now covered with thick anger. Demon Dragon King. It's after all just a species which was crowned king 10,000 years ago. The current era belongs to the younger generation. I'd like to see how awe-inspiring this old demon dragon can be. Long Yunzhan's words made the World Group's members all widen their eyes. Xiao Jing gave a thumbs up. Incredible. Our group leader actually knows how to ridicule a human. Pooey, he's ridiculing a dragon. Yen Xiao, he slapped his head. Be serious? Don't you know what kind of occasion this is? Tong Ziqing looked at Long Yunzhan worriedly. Group leader. Demon Dragon King is after all a 10,000-year-old demon dragon. Although you're already the human dragon race's king, but don't worry. Long Yunzhan's eyes were calm as he glanced at Tong Ziqing. With the dragon bone sword in his hand, he leaped into the air and slashed at Long Outyin. Long Yunzhan. A low and dignified voice stopped Long Yunzhan's actions. The shimmering figure on the high platform had suddenly appeared in front of Long Yunzhan and blocked his path. DMO Xian's eyes were cold and his voice was chilly. His target is this lord. During the period when Yiqing Luo disappeared, Huang Wuyo's undead puppets quickly took over the various surfaces. As a result, countless interfaces fought back in a fluster. The battle in the immortal world was the fiercest. DMO Xian led the Imperial Palace to support them, and as a spiritual pillar, he had not really made any vicious moves. And Long Outyin's appearance It was obvious that Huang Wuyo had purposely arranged this. Huang Wuyo had already calculated that today would be the end of his patience. He had predicted that he would definitely leave the battlefield today to look for Yiqing Luo. That was why Long Outyin was here. In the entire God Realm, the only person who could stop Long Outyin, the Demon Dragon King from 10,000 years ago, was DMO Xian. It's good that you know this seat can't be bothered to kill anyone else. Long Outyin stretched out both his arms as he floated down from the undead puppet's head and sped towards DMO Xian's direction. DMO Xian speedily pushed Long Yunjian back into the world group's boundary as he raised his palm to meet Long Outyin's attack. Two bursts of energy exploded in the sky. Chapter 53:24. Demon Dragon King's power, even after 10,000 years, was still as powerful as before, shaking the heavens and earth. After DMO Xian's palm met with his, a glint of profound meaning flashed past his eyes as the expression on his face turned solemn. Whereas on the other side, those who were entangled with the undead puppets didn't have the time to observe this battle. The undead puppets, which didn't know fatigue, swarmed towards them once again. Originally, when they were dealing with those hundreds of thousands of undead puppets, God Realm soldiers, and those who came to help were already having a hard time. Now, Long Outyin had brought another batch of obviously more powerful elite undead puppets to join in. That made it even harder for them to resist. That batch of elite undead puppets only numbered a few hundred, but their battle power was shocking. In just a short moment, they had already defeated the soldiers who were defending the first line of defense, just as the elite undead puppets were about to attack the second line of defense. Long Yunjian raised his long sword, and azure blue profound light shot out, turning into a majestic and vast sword chi as it slashed upwards. That azure blue long sword's blade seemed to be covered with a layer of thick dragon scales, indestructible. Bam, bam, bam. Among the undead puppets, the profound light exploded as the air was filled with a majestic, imposing manner. Under the sky, full of profound light, Long Yunjian's figure was faintly discernible as the azure blue long sword in his hands slashed out numerous sword waves. Long Yunjian's eruption gave the soldiers sufficient morale. The battle instantly turned incomparably fierce. The other members of the world group weren't to be outdone as they carried their weapons and charged up, as compared to the first line of defense, which was easily defeated. As for the second line of defense, that bunch of elite undead puppets were actually unable to break through. However, while the others were unaware of it, the blood-stained sky was gradually covered with a layer of thick black fog. The fog was filled with a shocking cold air. Soundlessly, near the second line of defense, DMO Xian, who was exchanging blows with Long Outyin, indistinctly sensed a strange change in the air. Just as he was about to shift his gaze over, Long Outyin's figure had already blocked his line of sight. That sunken cold face was filled with a tinge of admiring battle intent. "Young lad, you dare to be distracted while exchanging blows with this seat. Are you looking down on this seat?" His light words were accompanied by an even more ferocious attack. Before anyone realized it, Yimo had already left. In the void of the second line of defense, a vortex-shaped black hole was slowly torn open. Little by little, slowly it began to expand. A vast and boundless dark force, accompanied by cold yin qi, spread out from the entrance of the cave. The thick black mist formed a huge palm. Like 5 sharp blades drilling out of a black hole, they grabbed towards the world group members on the battlefield. "Be careful." Xiao Jin sensed that something was wrong. His pure, golden pupils reflected a large patch of thick black mist. His first reaction was swift as he stretched out his long arm and immediately clasped Yin Xiao Yi's slender waist, bringing her into his embrace. The 5 sharp fingers formed by the black fog brushed past Xiao Jin and missed. However, the other members were also swept into the palms of the black fog. Screams of pain came from the mouths of those members. Zi Qing. Long Yunjian, sheathed his sword, and turned around to see Tong Ziqing hanging in midair. Quite a number of members were also suspended in midair as they kept on struggling. Long Yunjian and Qiao Jin exchanged glances and speedily leapt up, attempting to charge towards that black fog palm which had drilled out of the black hole. But 20 over undead puppets swiftly appeared in front of them, blocking the path of those who wanted to head up to rescue her. Chapter 53:25. They totally had no way to get close. Long Yunjian and Xiao Jin's pupils contracted as the expression on their faces turned extremely aghast. The two of them tried their best to kill the undead puppets in front of them, as they wanted to charge forward to save the world group's members. But that black hole whirlpool, which was surging with waves, was extremely fast. After grabbing more than half of the group members, it swiftly swallowed them into the black hole. The black hole was shrinking bit by bit. Bam! Suddenly, a deafening explosion resounded from the horizon. It shook the entire ground. A devilish red glow instantly covered the entire sky. It also covered that huge black hole, as it was dyed with a large patch of fresh blood red. The devilish red glow seemed as though it was burning the entire sky as it gave off a hissing sound. Everyone saw a blazing red fan as it spun in midair, as though it was a sharp blade, enough to slice everything in the world, including the profound chi that was formed. The blazing red fan forcefully cut off the hand, which was stretched out from the black hole. The world group's members all started to fall from midair. Clang! A deafening cry caused the entire battlefield to surge with a surge of high-spirited battle power. Fiery red flames streaked across the sky. A huge vermilion bird spread its wings and soared, as it steadily caught every single member of the world group. A brilliant tail, as though it had ignited the entire sky with a raging flame. That is Qing Luo. It's Qing Luo's glower flame fan. And the scarlet flame is Qing Luo here. When the World Mercenary Group's members saw this familiar glower flame fan and the vermilion bird, their faces revealed an overjoyed expression. Under the sky, full of raging flames, a bright young lady dressed in red, like a blossoming bloodthirsty poppy, seemed as though she was stepping on the flames. Her fair hand lifted slightly. The glower flame fan spun one round in midair as it landed into her palm. She stood casually in midair as numerous devilish red glow encircled her body, as though a fairy from the 9 heavens had descended, noble and holy, unattainable. Qing Luo. It's Qing Luo. Quickly look, it's Madame Qing Luo. Countless ecstatic voices sounded from the battlefield. When all the profound practitioners who were participating in this battle heard these excited cheers, they all looked towards the horizon, at the red figure that was covered in raging flames. Even Long Ao Tian, who was entangled with Dmo Xian, was slightly dazed when he looked at Yi Qing Luo. Bang! The girl in the air suddenly raised her hand. A ray of light shot out from his fingertips. Long Outyen, who was still in a daze, was sent flying and landed heavily on the ground. Long Outyen was still in a daze, and he was lying on the ground motionlessly. Looking at Yi Qing Luo's gaze, it seemed as though he had seen another person through Yi Qing Luo, sinking into his own memories. Yi Qing Luo's posture was dignified. With an absolute disdainful stance, she raised her voice and shouted, "This phoenix will absolutely not allow you to endanger the safety of the various worlds." Her expression was cold as she swept her gaze across the battlefield at the people fighting against the undead corpse puppets. All of you have put in so much effort to protect the various worlds. This phoenix will remember it. From now onwards, this phoenix will fight side by side with all of you to completely uproot this bunch of people who had invaded the various world positions, attempting to destroy the peace of the world positions. Huang Wuyo. 10,000 years ago, this phoenix's mother, the previous god emperor, died because of sealing Huang Wuyo Chapter 53:26. The young lady's sonorous and powerful voice sounded like a bell. She raised her hand. A majestic force swept out from her body. The flames turned into a phoenix as it circled around her. The cherry blossom petal on the young lady's forehead gave off a bewitching and glaring red glow. Everyone's eyes were dyed red by the flames. In their hearts, a monstrous battle intent surged. One by one, they gripped the weapons in their hands tightly as their profound chi surged and swarmed into the battlefield. The momentum of the battle erupted once again. Long Out Yin regained his senses as he slowly stood up from the ground as he looked at Yi Qing Luo with a complicated gaze. However, that noble and godlike young lady did not even spare him a glance. The glower flame fan in her hands pressed against his neck mercilessly. Long Out Yin, you coward. You don't dare to admit that you like my mother, so you use such a method to deny it. Do you think, after choosing to help the person my mother hates, Huang Wuyo, you still have a right to like my mother? Her voice was chilly, and there was no hint of euphemism in it. It pierced through the last line of defense in Long Out Yin's heart. She didn't kill Long Out Yin. Killing him would be the greatest release for him. For the rest of his life, Long Out Yin would live in the pain and torment of his past. Yi Qing Luo's return completely destroyed the undead puppets that Huang Wuyo had painstakingly refined. In the depths of the dark abyss, Huang Wuyo, who was shrouded in dense yin qi, sat cross-legged. Chi website. The dense black aura around him was constantly pouring into his body. It made that gentle face that belonged to Gu Jingyu to surface a dense, evil aura. His entire person seemed extremely gloomy. Revered Wuyu, bad news. A skinny man dressed in a black robe swayed as he rushed in. Revered Wuyu, our puppet army has been destroyed by a woman. She has already snatched the God Realm's territory. Huang Wuyo opened his eyes abruptly. The dense black chi overflowed from his pupils as it circulated bit by bit. That person knelt on the ground. Revered Sir Worryless, the dead corpse puppets led by the various armies cannot hold on any longer. I'm afraid that even the Heaven Domain and the Earth Domain will fall. The man continued, Master Long is no match for His Majesty. Now, even Master Long is under His Majesty's control. Venerable Worryless, please take action personally. Fight a beautiful battle for our Wuyo Empire. That person's voice trembled, but it was filled with passion and reverence for Huang Wuyo. Huang Wuyo's hands, which were resting on his knees, were clenched into fists. His eyes were filled with raging yin qi. Yi Qing Luo, it's that woman again. Huang Wuyo gritted his teeth, his face contorted in anger. Revered Sir Worryless, we have to ask you to take action personally this time. Our brothers on the battlefield can't hold on any longer. That person shouted himself hoarse with hatred towards the enemy. The world can only belong to our Wuyo Empire. Huang Wuyo's face darkened as he waved his sleeves. The surrounding yin qi swirled around and gradually formed a circle in front of him. Not long later, a projection appeared in midair. In the projection, the flames of war raged continuously as layers upon layers of baleful qi surged. Both sides' warriors were contending against each other. The dead corpse puppets, which had been meticulously nurtured, should be an invincible existence. However, when the flaming figure of the woman appeared, Lin Fan's eyes widened. Chapter 53:27. The elite puppets that he was so proud of had fallen one by one. Standing in midair, the feather fan spun as she waved her sleeves. She easily repelled all the puppets. Little by little, Huang Wuyo's pupils dilated in Huang Wuyo's eyes. Vaguely, he seemed to have seen the past. The girl smiled brightly at him and called out to him with a soft voice. "Ahuang! Ahuang! Ahuang!" Those cries were surging in his mind. Even the surrounding black chi seemed to have dimmed by quite a bit. Huang Wuyo covered his head with one hand as the other hand was raised up high, exploding a violent and terrifying profound ray. Rumble. Bam. Everything in the surroundings was shattered by this terrifying profound ray. The entire space was shattered. I will never allow anyone to obstruct my plan. This world will only belong to me alone. Huang Wuyo let out another loud and furious roar. Suddenly leaping into the sky, he turned into a black shadow, and under the gloomy Yin Qi, he scurried into mid-air. In a blink of an eye, he disappeared into the abyss. At the same time, the skinny man who was kneeling on the ground suddenly fell to the ground. Plop! The black robe that enveloped his body fell to the ground, revealing the eerie white bones under the black robe. That wasn't human at all. Indistinctly, a wisp of alluring red light floated out from that white bones. In the end, it disappeared under the Yin Qi that filled the sky. Huang Wuyo stood in the sky, stepping on the thick dark Qi. 1-8. Even thousands of miles away, he could see the situation of the various domains. His sharp eyes were searching for traces of Yiqing Luo. The raging murderous intent in his eyes was like a storm about to explode. Suddenly, his vision fell onto a certain interface. That was Yiqing Luo's group of companions? If they were here, Yiqing Luo would definitely be here too. Black Qi lingered in Huang Wuyo's eyes as he speedily flew towards the direction of the Earth domain. Fresh blood spread across the battlefield, and countless dismembered corpses were scattered all over the ground. However, it was as if they had their own consciousness as they continued to squirm and attack the soldiers in the land again. However, when a batch of them went up, they were chopped into pieces by the young boys and girls. In the end, they were turned into minced meat that could no longer fight. Under the leadership of the barbaric Bloodbone King, the soldiers of the Earth realm approached step by step. The undead corpse puppets, as well as the major forces that had sided with Huang Wuyo, were forced to retreat again and again. The news of Huang Wuyo's forces being wiped out from the deity world had spread to the other planes. This boosted everyone's morale, and the more they fought, the braver they became. Huang Wuyo's forces seemed to have lost their backbone. Just as the barbaric Bloodbone King and the World Mercenary Group led their soldiers and other mercenary groups to annihilate the last wave of Huang Wuyo's forces. Suddenly, a thick black fog surged up from the horizon. It was like an open mouth that swallowed all the light in the world. Violent and overbearing profound energy, accompanied by a soaring murderous aura, slashed downwards. The gloomy Yin Qi was like an icy frost that spread across the entire battlefield. The soldiers of the World Mercenary Group quickly raised their heads and looked towards the horizon. In the dark sky, a black figure seemed to have merged with the sky. Only half of the figure could be seen clearly, but it was so huge that it almost covered half the sky. When they saw the face of the figure clearly, Long Yunzhan frowned. Long Yunzhan frowned. Young Sect Master Gu? I originally wanted to post the ending in one go after writing it, but after thinking about it, I decided to first post a few chapters to tell the babies who are still waiting for the ending of the Divine Phoenix Empire. The next update should directly update all the endings. The ending is a little rushed. I hope everyone can forgive me. If I have the time, I will write the extra chapters. Regardless of whether my babies read it or not, I will still write the extra chapters for the CP. This is just Master Mo's yearning, and also Divine Phoenix's yearning. As for the reason, I can't explain it. Those who haven't experienced it will not understand it. I just want to say that if it wasn't for the fact that they were so mentally broken that they couldn't stand up, no author would put down the book that they deeply loved for so long and let their beloved babies wait for so long. Writing an ending is my final explanation to everyone, to the Divine Phoenix, and to myself. As for the new book, I don't have any ideas for now. I can't keep up with the current trends and hot topics, so I need to enrich myself. Chapter 53:28. No, he's Huang Wuyo. Yin Shaoyi frowned. Look at his eyes. The figure in midair was Huang Wuyo, who was floating in the air. Although he had a gentle, jade-like face, There wasn't a single trace of color in his eyes. It was filled with a dense, black chi. It made him look incomparably ruthless. Huang Wuyo, you finally appeared. A rat hiding in the dark dares to play tricks behind our backs. If you have the ability, then come and fight with us. The Brothers of the World mercenary group revealed an enraged expression when they found out that this person was Huang Wuyo. The various large domains were currently embroiled in the flames of war, and countless of innocent commoners had died in the hands of the flames of war. There were also numerous large families and powerhouses who had sacrificed countless of their loved ones and elite disciples before they could barely defend their homes. The main culprit of everything was Huang Wuyo. Huang Wuyo floated in mid-air as the dense black yin qi churned like a black wave, making him look even more sinister. His ruthless eyes coldly swept across the people below him as his voice was cold and sinister, as though he had an echo effect, making him seem even more sinister. A bunch of ants dare to fight with me? His sleeves moved. The surrounding black yin qi suddenly turned into a huge black dragon as it bared its fangs and brandished its claws as it charged towards the World Mercenary Group brothers. That black dragon was surrounded by a dense black fog, but its speed was extremely fast. The moment it neared them, they felt a sharp Xian wave attacking their cheeks. It was horrifying, as though death was approaching. The faces of the World Mercenary Group turned pale as they hurriedly tried to retreat. But their speed was too late. Just at this critical moment, a loud pung sound rang out. Countless eerie white bones broke out from the ground as it formed a bone wall, blocking the incoming Xian wave. It also protected the group. Yin Xiaoyi's expression eased up slightly. Luckily, Uncle Bone is here, otherwise we ca. Click the book vault. Before she could finish her sentence, everyone had yet to heave a sigh of relief. Huang Wuyo's attack. When both parties collided, the black dragon dissipated into the air. That bone wall suddenly split open with a crack. Following that, cracking sounds could be heard as it split open. Countless eerie white bones shattered onto the ground. Oh, the Bloodbone Barbarian King, who was in front of everyone, spat out a mouthful of blood. His body swayed slightly. He immediately tightened his grip on the bone spear in his hand and fiercely stabbed it into the ground, barely managing to maintain his balance. Bloodbone Barbarian King. Uncle Bone. The members of the band of brothers had worried expressions as they called out to him. The Bloodbone Barbarian King waved his hand. It's nothing. He gasped lightly and slowly stood up with his spear. His face was strangely pale. You guys have to be careful. His power seems to have become stronger. Originally, from the news that Yiqing Luo brought back, they knew that Huang Wuyo had been using the dead corpse puppets and other forces that he controlled to charge and break through the enemy lines. Totally because Huang Wuyo had met with an accident when he was trying to break the seal forcefully. Then he was messed around by Yiqing Luo time and time again. His main body became extremely weak. His strength was far from his peak 10,000 years ago. But as the Bloodbone Barbaric King from 10,000 years ago, according to what Yiqing Luo said, his profound energy should be above Huang Wuyo. But from that exchange, just now, the barbaric Bloodbone King clearly felt Huang Wuyo's powerful Xian wave. That was absolutely not the weakened state of his main body. During this period of time, what on earth did Huang Wuyo do? Chapter 53:29. Ha ha! Huang Wuyo laughed maniacally as he looked down coldly at the man below. Bloodbone, we haven't met for so many years, and you're still the same, knowing your place. Bloodbone Barbaric King's eyes darkened. Huang Wuyo opened his arms wide. The black fog in the sky surged. It was as if the entire sky had become his slave. Bloodbone Barbaric King held his Bloodbone spear tightly as his eyes were filled with viciousness. Huang Wuyo, I was too self-aware, that's why I gave you the chance to hurt Gur. Huang Wuyo's maniacal laughter stopped abruptly. His face was cold as he stared at Bloodbone Barbaric King fiercely. What are you? Who allowed you to call her that? Gur, this title can only be used by me alone. You're the one who hurt her. You're the one who made her soul dissipate. What do you have to say that? Bloodbone barbaric king sneered. Huang Wuyo's expression turned uglier by the minute. The surging black Yin-Chi bared its fangs and brandished its claws as it clamored. It was a declaration of Huang Wuyo's anger. She's also my wife and my daughter's mother. Huang Wuyo's voice was filled with terrifying ruthlessness and madness. And you are just a trash who doesn't even have the right to stand beside her. Bloodbone barbaric king wasn't angry, but sneered and ridiculed. Your wife? Have you ever treated her as your wife? You've only been using her. All along, using her. Your daughter? Have you ever treated Qing Luo as your daughter? What you've been coveting is the profound heart jade in Qing Luo's body, which can inherit the divine phoenix's bloodline. From the start, you've only loved yourself. He held the bloodbone spear and pointed it toward the sky as he sneered. Huang Wuyo, you're very clear that Gur will never forgive you and will never forgive you. So, you're very upset in the depths of your heart. Am I right? He could hear the hysteria in Huang Wuyo's tone. He could also hear the anger from him, trying his best to deceive himself. Because Huang Wuyo was very clear of his position in Feng Ji's heart. Other than hatred, there was only hatred. Hundred Flowers literature, Feng Ji's feelings for Huang Wuyo had long been exhausted by Huang Wuyo's repeated ambitions. However, Huang Wuyo did not want to admit it. He would rather lie to himself and believe that he was still in Feng Ji's heart. The barbaric Bloodbone King could not help but sneer in his heart. Was there any use for Huang Wuyo to regret now? No, it's useless. Because Huang Wuyo knew that it was useless, he only had one choice, and that was to follow through with his decision without any hesitation. He would carry on his ambition without any hesitation. Otherwise, all the things he had done would be meaningless. Only by satisfying his ambition could he convince himself of the regret and guilt in the depths of his heart. Perhaps the words of the Bloodbone Barbarian King had provoked Huang Wuyo. Perhaps it was the ridicule in the eyes of the barbaric Bloodbone King that provoked Huang Wuyo. His heart, which was already filled with hostility towards the barbaric Bloodbone monarch, seemed to have found an excuse to vent at this moment. He suddenly stretched out his hands towards the sky, and an endless amount of power surged. The dark sky was instantly shrouded in black fog. I absolutely won't regret it. I absolutely won't regret it. Absolutely. I was born to be the overlord of this heaven and earth. All of you, submit to me. Rumble. A deafening buzzing sound exploded with a loud bang. Chapter 53:30. The power of the Ancient Ones exploded forth in an instant. Cracks began to appear on the ground as it began to crack. Boom! Countless buildings collapsed. The people standing on the ground began to sway. Not good. He wants to destroy the entire land. Is he crazy? He actually wants to destroy this realm. His strength. How could it be so strong? What's going on? No. Run. Below the Earth realm, everyone's faces were filled with disbelief. Huang Wuyo actually wanted to destroy this world with just a single sentence, causing all the living beings in this world to disappear along with it. This was too ruthless. The barbaric Bloodbone King's expression suddenly turned serious. He gripped his spear tightly and raised his eyes to look at Huang Wuyo, who was emitting a murderous aura. He said in a low voice, "I will go and stop him. Gather the other soldiers first. Follow the order and avoid the places where the cracks are." Uncle Bowen, no. Yin Xiao Yi's eyebrows creased. That old monster is obviously not normal now, and you even got injured while protecting us. This king is fine. Bloodbone Barbaric King waved his hand. We can only stop him from continuing his cultivation and hold on till Qing Luo and the others rush over. Then everything will be fine. Long Yunzhan's face was cold. I'll stay and help you. Me too. Xiao Jin also spoke up. The other members of the world group immediately stood out. You're no match for him. Barbaric Bloodbone King shook his head in rejection. Let's not waste any more time here. If we continue to stay here, The Earth realm will have no hope, and we won't be able to wait for Qing Luo's arrival. Xiao Jin still wanted to say something, but Long Yunjian had already grabbed his shoulder. There was no time to waste. If the Earth domain was really destroyed by Huang Wuyo, the other realms would probably be affected as well. At that time, Huang Wuyo would probably use the same method to deal with the other realms. Everyone began to move in an orderly manner. The Bloodbone Barbarian King looked at the young faces behind him. At this moment, each and every one of them was seriously mobilizing the other soldiers. It was so orderly, so calm. He gripped the spear in his hand tightly. He pressed his hand tightly against his chest. He had promised Gur that he would protect her daughter. He had also promised Gur's daughter that he would protect her brother. Therefore, he had to stop Huang Wuyo's crazy behavior. The Bloodbone Barbarian King clenched his fingers tightly and leaped forward with his spear. Huang Wuyo, stop being so stubborn. The things you've been pursuing have always been wrong. Countless densely packed, bloody bones stretched out from his body and spread out in all directions like a cobweb. Those bloody bones disappeared into the thick black mist that filled the sky. Oh! The Bloodbone Barbarian Monarch suddenly let out a muffled groan when it entered the black fog and quickly stretched towards Huang Wuyo. The black energy quickly followed the Bloodbone and bounded. It was as if it wanted to devour the barbaric Bloodbone King. A twisted smile appeared on Huang Wuyo's face. You want to devour me? Bone Lord, do you really think that you are the same Bone Lord that I used and devoured 10,000 years ago? He laughed heartily. What a pity. What a pity. Those tricks of yours aren't worth mentioning in front of this seat. After the Bloodbone Barbarian King heard Huang Wuyo's words, the scene of him transforming into Feng Gu 10,000 years ago appeared in his mind. Time and time again, he lied to him, hurt him, and made use of him. The scarlet in his eyes turned even redder, as though blood was flowing out. That's right, it's like this. Chapter 53:31. Huang Wuyu, the bloodshot eyes of the Bloodbone Barbaric King, had almost spread to the whites of his eyes. The smile on Huang Wuyo's face became even more twisted. The thick black fog in the sky slowly gathered and turned into a sharp blade, grabbing towards the Bloodbone Barbaric King. This heaven and earth should belong to me right from the start. I am the ruler of this heaven and earth. No one is able to stop me. Bam, bam, bam. The cracking sound of the interface was getting more and more obvious. The Bloodbone Barbaric King's blood bones were entangled with the black chi around Huang Wuyo. But it was obvious that Huang Wuyo was about to devour the Bloodbone Barbaric King. Just at this moment, a clear and cold voice faintly rang out amidst the rumbling that filled the sky. Is that so? But I don't think so. That voice wasn't loud, but it covered the sound of the heaven and earth collapsing. It slowly went into Huang Wuyo's ears. It made Huang Wuyo's twisted face congeal slightly. Under the thick black sky, it was dyed with the color of a coquettish flame. In an instant, it lit up the surrounding sky. A blazing figure stepped on the air and came over. The red long dress was like a blossoming flower of sparks, with traces of the raging flames. The young lady's beautiful face was cold, with a noble and unattainable bearing. She held a flame feather fan in her hand, and with a gentle wave, it instantly dispersed all the yin qi. Qiyan, Yi Qing Luo commanded. Qiyan opened its mouth and spat out a purifying flame. The moment Yi Qing Luo appeared, the moment the purifying flame spread, the people who were escaping below seemed to have seen the hope of a new life. Yi Qing Luo's fingertips swept. The glower flame fan in her palms spun out. Bam! Crackle! The yin qi surrounding the barbaric Bloodbone King was completely dispersed. She flew to the side of the Bloodbone Barbaric King and supported him with one hand. Uncle Gu, are you all right? I'm fine. The Bloodbone Barbaric King wiped the blood from the corner of his lips. You must be careful. His current condition doesn't seem right. Yi Qing Luo's delicate brows creased slightly as her gaze shifted to Huang Wuyo. Between her half-squinted eyes, a cold light flowed. Heh, he merely used a forbidden technique to return to his peak potential. Yiqing Luo said calmly, as her tone didn't seem to mind. At his peak, the barbaric Bloodbone King's expression suddenly changed. He knew very well that even the Divine Phoenix and Feng Ge could only fight Huang Wuyo to a draw at his peak. Yiqing Luo scoffed lightly. Using the forbidden technique is totally going against the balance of Heaven's way. There are gains and there are losses. In order for him to recover to his peak strength, he naturally paid an equal price. She smirked and looked at Huang Wuyo with an increasingly cold gaze. I like to see how long he can maintain his strength at his peak. Ha! In the sky, Huang Wuyo's cold laughter could be heard. As expected of my daughter, you can even tell that I have recovered my full strength. Yiqing Luo slowly raised her hand and opened the glower flame fan with her fingertips. Do you really think that you can go against me if you recover your full strength? Daughter, aren't you looking down on me? Huang Wuyo intentionally called Yiqing Luo daughter in a disgusting manner as he sneered. I know that the current you has completely integrated the profound jade heart into your body and have inherited the God Emperor's power and Go-Er's profound energy, but that you're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.